What'd you say that number was?
21, 12, 11, 40, it's 11. It's like 1,121 or 1,200.
Katie on? Oh, there she is.
Here comes Ted.
I just texted Ted.
He's right here.
Oh, there he is.
Shannon, can you unmute Katie?
Yes.
Okay.
Hey, Ted.
How are you?
Just a little wet. How are you?
Starting to dry. Sorry, just texted you.
Katie, you can unmute yourself if you want to start.
Thank you, Danielle. Can you guys hear me?
Whoa. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely can.
Definitely hear you.
You want me to be softer?
Too soft.
She's fine. Can we just fix the mic? Yeah.
Yes, cool. All right, do we have thumbs up from,
Yep.
all right, very good. So we will begin Tuesday, July 21st, 2026 Select Board meeting to a call to order. Please note the meeting is being audio and video recorded. If we could rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we will begin this evening with the Town Administrator's report. Nick?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I want to begin with a thank you that we missed at the last meeting, which is a sincere thank you to everyone who put time and energy into the Frederick Douglass reading that we had at the beginning of July. I know we had a lot of thank yous at the last meeting, and this was one that I missed, and I want to make sure everyone realizes how important that was in terms of the full array of events that we had, and there were a lot of folks put a lot of effort into it, and we're also very flexible with the heat. We moved over here to the high school, and we were able to also include and welcome Attorney General Andrea Campbell, so it was a really good event, and I wanted to make sure that was recognized. A little bit about the rest of the report for tonight. First, I want to speak about the transitional audit, which I mentioned at the last meeting. To be clear, we have the final draft report right now. I may have misspoken at that point. We are working with CLA right now to complete and finalize it. Patrick and I anticipate being back in August with the final report. When complete, we will do a high-level presentation here, but also send out, after posting online, send the link to all of the town meeting members, finance committee, and other electeds as well. So everyone will have access to that very soon. Second, tonight, we had talked about Ingalls Terrace at the last meeting, and I want to just highlight that here tonight. We had anticipated an opportunity to vote on that, and we will not be voting on that tonight. We did not notice that. And part of why we did not is in looking at it, Gino and I actually both were out there, measured the roadway. The distance across at its most generous point is about 17 feet. The minimum, if we were building from scratch for right-of-way, would be 20. When you start to put a vehicle on one side or the other or both, it gets significantly more constricted. So what we plan to do is to have our assistant engineer, Gino, myself, and both chiefs speak on Monday, not just about Ingalls, but more broadly, about potential similar situations and issues that we may be facing. In addition, I would anticipate, and this is just something I want to share, that we will also recommend a path forward to address, any future requests for things like speed bumps or changes to parking, so that we're looking at it with professional staff and coming to you all with a recommendation that includes that feedback in advance, so that you have that with you from the first conversation you have. And then I assume, as with any change, there would probably be 2 meetings that you all would have for anything like that as well. So the process that we will come forward with will include a recommendation for how we'd like to move forward, subject to your feedback and input, obviously. I appreciate everyone's understanding of both those matters. So, we really do think that we'll come back with recommendations that are well thought out and very well prepared for you all to deliberate on. I also wanted to highlight traffic around the elementary school, which is an issue that we heard about more during the school year, but it's something that we had promised a number of residents, and I know elected officials, that we would begin looking at as the school year ended. The first meeting that was convened for that included Officers Wilson and Reen, Principal Sanborn and Max, talking about brainstorming, potential improvements for this fall and identifying ways to mitigate some of the issues that have been most significant that have developed over the first couple of years operating at the school. We plan to invite them to one of your meetings in August to not only let you all know where we stand, but also to talk more broadly with the community about what we anticipate doing for the school year ahead. I know we're going to be speaking a little bit more later tonight about trash and recycling, but as we move forward with the new recycling barrel deployment, which will begin next week on the 27th, and the automation, which begins the following week, August 3rd, I do want to call out the Solid Waste Advisory Committee for all of the help that they provided to town staff on messaging, thinking creatively about ways to reach out, and also making sure that we don't have blind spots that we're missing. We're happy to get any info and feedback from folks here or at any time giving us a call or online, but I really wanted to call out their help with outreach and planning around the transition. With the World Cup coming to a close, I wanted to recognize Charlotte and Christina specifically for the work that they did to bring the games to the community. This was something of an audible that just came up this spring. Like, is this something we can do? How do we do it? What do we have to think about? And I think it turned out to be a really great success with the work they did, both at Town Hall, but with vendors, and then for a handful of the games, actually working closely with police when we anticipated larger crowds for the U.S. games. And as we got deeper into the tournament, it was a really unique thing that not a lot of communities did around here, certainly of our size. I don't know of any communities that did it. So I wanted to thank them for that. I also wanted to recognize the momentum that they have going right now. The summer movie and summer concerts have been launched. This past weekend was the event in partnership with Bentwater. So there's a lot happening, and the whole team is bringing a lot of energy and creativity to their roles, and I really appreciate it, and I know the community does as well. On the personnel or HR side, I wanted to give a couple updates. Olivia Cahill has begun at the Police Academy as she takes the next step towards serving our community. We have a number of folks here that are also serving the community that the chief will be speaking to tonight. And then at the DPW, we also welcomed Mike Fea and Robert Fiore as MEOs. So we're excited to have all of them joining the team, and I wanted to highlight that. Before I close, I want to note one other change to tonight's agenda. We had planned to recognize several recent retirements this evening. In order to make sure that we could do this as well as possible, and in working with the folks that we plan to recognize, we're going to move that to August 4th. That will give everyone enough time to make sure that they can get friends, family, and colleagues to join us. So that is something that we are looking forward to as well. Finally, I want to highlight a really exciting community partnership. Big Blue Bargains has actually pledged to match fundraising efforts intended to defray a portion of the work at Upper Jackson on the track. And so we will be rolling that out on social media. Ideally, the way it will work is that they will match donations to the town. At Town Hall, we're able to accept them at customer service, and beginning of next week, hopefully, looking at Patrick, we'll be able to process them online as well. It's just something we have to work with our vendor to sort of turn on that option, because this is not something like a bill that's attached to an account number and an address. We just want to make sure it's something folks can do if they're interested. So we're looking forward to that, and we're really excited that Big Blue Bargains has put forward this match. And as I said, you'll see on social media and online that effort moving forward, probably starting in the morning. And it's really something exciting to look forward to. And it's a new idea, and we hope to be really successful with it. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions you all may have.
I just want to also bring attention to the great event at the Senior Center yesterday, as with the Ice Cream Social, Nick and Gino and two members of Republic came out to answer questions and show the barrels to the folks at the Senior Center.
Shannon was there as well, helping.
Yes, Shannon, I'm sorry. You were, and we talked. Yeah. She was there. So just want to thank you for that. I think it was successful.
Yeah, and we saw that as an opportunity to speak to folks that were there for a social event and not necessarily paying as close attention to the trash transition as others may be. So it was a great chance to let them actually move around the barrels, and the folks from Republic actually put weights at the bottom of each of the barrels to give a sense of what it feels like really moving it. So it was a really good event, and talking to Sabrina, we'll probably be back, not just for that in advance of the changeover, but also to gather feedback as we move forward in the next couple of months to see what else we might be able to do.
Okay.
Did people feel like, oh, I can handle this?
I think some were surprised at how well they could handle it, and others were surprised that it is a large barrel. Mm-hmm. And even the 65 next to the 95, the 65 is large when you compare it to what folks are using for their trash right now. Mm-hmm. I think it was really useful. The weight at the bottom of it was good because it's not just moving around an empty, rigid plastic barrel. And, you know, they said sort of the average user is about 10 to 12 pounds, and it was a 10-pound weight, so it was a good opportunity.
I have a
Any
question.
additional?
Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Mary.
So I have a question that we didn't hear about it last week, and I just want to know, can you just give us an idea of what happened with that meat truck that was in Vinnon Square a couple weeks ago?
So it was on private property. It had filled out with I believe, with the health department, thank you for that, the necessary paperwork, and it is something that we will work to avoid happening in the future.
Okay, so we are going to look to avoid.
Correct.
That's-
Yes.
Okay.
Absolutely. And it was a matter of first impression for many folks at Town Hall, and that was why I think we spent a lot of time over the weekend trying to figure out the right solution. And they were shutting down Monday night. So it's something that going forward, we have a better game plan, but it was a matter of first impression for many of us.
Okay, great.
Great.
Anything else from the board?
I had a question about Hawthorne, but I don't think you mentioned it in terms of their anticipated opening date or what's happening there.
So the liquor license was approved this week. I believe they need to have their fire suppression inspected in order to get their final occupancy. Marzi and Rich both met with them to go through their floor plan to make sure that sort of they're checking off all of the boxes that are necessary. The one significant one that remains is having the fire suppression inspected. When Hawthorne by the Sea was operating there, it's an annual inspection. At the end of their final year, they did not do any of the annual inspection, so it's been, at this point, sort of 18 months since last inspection. We don't anticipate there'll be a problem, but it is something they need to complete before we can give a CO.
Okay, and just remind me again, when did they take possession? Was it May?
The beginning of May, yeah.
Okay, and have we checked to see if we've received their payments yet for May and June?
I have, and he's coming in tomorrow to get up to date. We are behind right now.
So as of right now, they haven't
Correct.
paid anything? Okay, okay,
And I've spoken to him. That's how I know tomorrow is when he anticipates bringing it in.
okay. Well, I'm glad you're on top of it. Thanks.
Okay, if that's good for everybody, we will move on to public comment. Public comment will be capped at 3 minutes. I will actually ask Nick to sort of manage, since I'm physically not there, if you wouldn't mind keeping time and
Yep.
informing people when their time is up.
We have one
We do
online,
this.
Katie.
Yep, we do have one online.
If you're gonna talk about the
You're
Hawthorne,
allowed.
should you wait, if we're gonna talk about the Hawthorne, should you wait to that part of the?
Now would be the appropriate time.
Yeah.
And then the deliberation will be among the board later on. So now's an opportunity to share input and sort of inform their discussion later on in the evening.
Yeah, I will just clarify, the only way that public comment occurs during the actual select board meeting is when there is a public hearing held within the meeting. All other public comment should happen at this time, and there are no public hearings on tonight's agenda, so all public comment should occur now.
So we have one in person here at the mic.
And I'll give you like a 30-second wave so you know when we're getting close to 3 minutes.
I didn't know that last week, so it'll be helpful this
Okay.
time. Paula Claridge, 31 Banks Terrace. I'm here as a citizen and as a member of the Open Space and Recreation Plan Committee. And I just wanted to talk a couple of comments about the Hawthorne. I had 3 points. I watched your deliberations from July 7th. And a couple of things I wanted to point out was just I thought it would be a really great idea if the select board members could make visits to neighboring communities and see the parks that they have there and the open space they have there along the waterfront and how they're being used. Lately, with the hot weather that we've been having and the tall ships coming into Boston, it's been really fun to see how these park areas have been used by the community. Even on the hot days, people sit out there just to get the breeze coming off the water, sitting in the shade under trees and stuff. So I would highly recommend, before you put parameters in the RFP for how it should be developed, maybe go experience these places. Some places I noted was just Newburyport. Their park along the waterfront is great. The Willows at Salem. And then for the tall ships, I was out at Piers Park in East Boston, and that was fantastic to see the community come out and use that. The other thing I wanted to bring up was just the access to the coastline there. And I know there's going to be a bigger discussion about whether the building remains or gets demolished. I agree with the Hawthorne Committee's recommendation that the building come down. I know that, I'm an architect, I know that renovating a building, especially if it's going to change use, to bring it up to code, particularly the energy code, is going to be very expensive. If a developer can do it, I guess that's up to them, but the building does pose an obstacle to views from Humphrey Street, as well as the coastal access that's required by the warrant for a purchase of the property. And then lastly was the idea of having residential there. And I just wanted to point out that when residents, even if they don't own the park, but they feel some ownership of the park, there could be sticky situations and weird negotiations happening right now. There's a condition at Eisman's Beach that was brought to the Open Space Committee's attention where there's a porta potty right in the center of the historic concrete bench there because all of the residents around the park couldn't agree on where to locate it, and that was the one spot that was agreeable to everybody, and it looks ridiculous. So residences thinking they have some part of ownership over a neighboring park can be awkward. So those are the points I wanted to make. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. James Andrews, 133 Stetson Avenue. I'm here today to voice opinion about the Hawthorne property. When I look at the math behind the project, we spent $7 million to buy the property. We're committed to another $7 or $8 million in interest payments over the course of owning the property. So we're looking at $15 million, $16 million there without doing anything to the property. When this property was purchased, we were told that the town could afford it. If that's the case, why did my property taxes go up way beyond inflation the year before last, about 10%, way beyond inflation this year, another 10%, and are likely to go up another 10% next year? It's pretty clear the town couldn't afford to buy this property at the time. And quite frankly, it's pretty clear that the $30,000 in interest we're paying a month needs to be offset by some revenue from the property. I encourage the board to commit to a combination of public access to the waterfront and also revenue-generating businesses that complement what we do on Humphrey Street to offset the cost of this project. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Hi, my name is Rick Rostoff. I live at 406 Paradise Road, and I, as a resident, have an interest in the Hawthorne reuse. I know that's been discussed about having it as open space, which I think is the biggest waste of area and time that could be put there. We have beaches, we have parks, we have tons of areas that are open space, and I think this is the opportunity for the town to make this something vibrant and that can really start anchoring that part of Humphrey Street to be a nicer area. For example, I don't know how many of you have been down to Newport, Rhode Island recently, but this picture is a hotel right on the main drag. It's a restaurant and shops on the first floor. It has 2 floors of hotel rooms above it. I think this would be the perfect fit for that space. As a matter of fact, I think if we're going to do it, it should probably have 3 or 4 floors above it of either hotel rooms or condos. And then you keep your restaurant on the first floor, you have some nice retail, and now you have an anchor for that whole part of Humphrey Street. But like I said before, we have tons of parks, beaches, towns, other towns and cities would kill to have that. Why leave this open space and just augment what we already have? So that's what I would say in terms of the Hawthorne. And then I saw that parking enforcement is also on the schedule tonight. And I guess I feel a little outnumbered, but One thing I will say, the parking enforcement at both the Swampscott Mall and the Panera Bread Plaza is definitely lacking. I brought this up about a year ago to one of the police officers, and they said, well, we can't do anything because it's not a fire zone, and all we can do is tell people to move along. Well, about 6 months ago, they painted it and put lines in front of where Panera Bread is that now say fire zone, and yet it's mainly Uber Eats people and things like that who park there. They can't take the extra 30 seconds to pull in a space, and they blocked the road. There's a lot of elderly people trying to get to Panera Bread, and they can't get in. And I've seen some officers just walking by or driving by when there's like 4 cars there. Okay, and I think that they should really take a tougher stance and start ticketing some of these people. Thank you.
Do we have anybody else in person for public comment? No one else, Katie, in person?
Okay, if we can allow Diane to unmute, please.
You can unmute yourself, Diane.
It's not letting us do it.
I think.
Oh, is that it?
Yeah.
Yes, go
I'm
ahead.
in, okay. Hi there. Diane O'Brien, 19 Essex Ave. I'm here tonight as the executive board from the Anchor Food Pantry. I just wanted, we as a board would like to thank you very much for approving our lease for another year. We also would especially like to thank you all for allowing us to use the Reach Arts Building during the SNAP benefits crisis that we experienced in November. We just wanted to let you know that on an average, we serve 120 families a week. That includes 20 to 25 deliveries to some of our senior citizens and our folks that can't get to the pantry. We've been going since 6 years, since COVID, and in that time, we've served over 750 families. But that does not include the 200 plus deliveries that we make of full turkey meals that we deliver at Thanksgiving. We are incredibly proud of what we do, and we are more than happy to continue to serve the community. We are also very grateful to the Swampscott community for continuing to support us. There was an issue brought up last week that there was some constituents that maybe felt that our hours of operation were limited. We seem to feel that with our very small board and our very small volunteer base, and in the 6 years, we have managed to hone the process, and so that we are able to service the people that come in and out of our pantry fairly quickly, and we do offer delivery. So we feel at this time it's not necessary to extend our hours. However, if we ever felt that we were overwhelmed, we would certainly consider that. But to that point, I did want to mention that if you are in contact with a constituent or a family here in Swampscott that for some reason cannot get to us on a Monday and a Wednesday, please reach out to our board. I know you have all our contact information. Some of you also have some of my you have my cell phone, and you have some of our board members' cell phone. Please reach out to us, and we will make accommodations for any resident of Swampscott or Nahant that requires to get into the pantry. We have done it before. I can tell you that both I and Laura Spathanis and Susan Cripps are part of our board. We have been called by the police department, the senior center, and the school department, where we have opened the pantry on a Friday night at 8 o'clock because the family was in crisis, identified by a police department. And we have, so we will acquiesce and bend over backwards to accommodate any resident of Swampscott. So we just wanted to let you know that our hours of operation still continue to be Monday from 11 to 1, and on Wednesdays from, I believe, 5 to 7. And we do offer deliveries on Mondays. So again, thank you so much for approving our lease. Again, we are proud and very happy to serve this community, and will continue to do so with all your support. And just to let you know that there's no Swampscott family, we would certainly accommodate whichever Swampscott family that was in crisis. We will certainly do whatever we need to do. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Diane.
Thank you, Diane. I actually have a public comment that was emailed to me. This is from Mike Kelleher, Precinct 4. Good evening. The Hawthorne property is one of the most valuable public assets our town owns. Opportunities like this come along once in a generation, and we owe it to our residents to think as boldly as possible about its future. I don't believe this part of town needs more open space. We already have an expansive public open space directly across from Humphrey Street and along the shoreline. What we are missing is a vibrant waterfront destination that draws people to Swampscott, supports our local businesses, and generates meaningful revenue for taxpayers. This property should become the crown jewel of our commercial district. Imagine an active year-round destination with indoor-outdoor gathering spaces, waterfront dining, community events, entertainment, and public access that people from across Greater Boston choose to visit. Every visitor who comes to Hawthorne will also walk Humphrey Street, shop in its stores, dine in its restaurants, and contribute to our local economy. The purpose of an RFP is to encourage vision and competition. We should be inviting the most creative and ambitious ideas possible, not narrowing the possibilities before we've even seen what the market can produce. Quite frankly, the last thing this location needs is another passive open space concept or, quote, microforest, end quote. While that idea may have value somewhere else, this is arguably the premier commercial waterfront site in Swampscott. It deserves a use that matches its potential and provides a lasting return to taxpayers who own it. Let's aim higher than preserving the status quo. Let's seek a proposal that creates jobs, strengthens our tax base, supports our existing businesses, activates our waterfront year-round, and becomes a destination that makes Swampscott proud. This is our chance to create something truly extraordinary. Let's not settle for ordinary. Thank you. Okay. So this will end public comment, and we will move on to agenda item 1, which is now abbreviated, I believe, just to the police department section, correct?
That's correct. And if we could turn it over to the chief to speak a little bit about each of the individuals. The individuals are here with family members, so I think it's a great opportunity.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Good evening. I'm going to have everybody stand up with me since we do everything as a team. I'll call on Lieutenant Brendan Reen, Lieutenant Steve Luck, Officer Steve Coughlin, Officer Nate Espinal, Officer Samantha Holy, and Officer Kevin Kaufman. Once you stand up here with everyone, I want to ensure that everybody sees them. I won't make them speak tonight.
We do have people working tonight.
Before I begin, I just wanted to say thank you to the Select Board for allowing us to not only fill these positions and our town administration for not only allowing us to fill these positions, but to pick the absolute best people possible to serve in our community. So for that, I just want to recognize the Select Board. Thank you very much. So tonight, we want to celebrate another significant milestone for our department and our town, the swearing in of our newest officers and the recognition of our 2 newly promoted lieutenants. Today is not merely ceremonial, but it's a broader commitment to the safety, well-being, and future of Swampscott. Tonight, I'd like to celebrate the following personnel who are here, and perhaps when I call on them, have their loved ones stand up as well. So first off, I would like to recognize, I'll have you stand with me, Lieutenant. I'm putting them on the spot. They put me on the spot every day. I get to put them on the spot today. Lieutenant Reen, who has been newly promoted to lieutenant. Brendan Reen is a 20-year veteran of the police department. He has a master's degree from the UMass Lowell, and he's a recipient of over 49 commendations, one including a life-saving award. He's a police academy instructor, field training officer, public information officer, assistant harbor master, and all-around great guy. Tonight, we celebrate his promotion. And before we celebrate him, I want to celebrate, I want Sandy and the kids to stand up. I want to thank them as well. So congratulations, Brendan. Lieutenant Steve Luck. Lieutenant Luck is a 24-year veteran of the police department. Steve has a bachelor's degree from Bridgewater State University and has over 56 commendations in his career. He is our my go-to special events coordinator and incident commander during special events. He's our field training program coordinator, mental health task force committee member, and all-around steady, reliable, and most trusted and respected individual in our department. We thank, I'll have Sarah, if she's here. Oh, stand up, because you're making a big commitment as well. Tonight, we celebrate his promotion, and we know that he'll do great things for our department. Thank you. I think before I begin, I'm going to have Officer Steve Coughlin's family stand up so everybody knows Steve's family. So, Steve is our first ever out-of-state lateral police officer from the Houston Police Department. Steve originally grew up in Malden, and he graduated with a bachelor's degree from Salem State University. He will complete his field training program this week, and we couldn't be more excited to have him. So thank you to Steve's family, and congratulations, Steve. Come on up, Nate. Officer Nate Espinal and his family. Thank you. Nate is originally from Lynn. He previously worked in a family automotive business and volunteers much of his time with his religious congregation. He recently graduated from the police academy and is currently in our field training program. I want to thank you for allowing us to have Nate with us, and he will be getting married in August, so that's more difficult than the police academy. Officer Samantha Holy. Is any of your family here? Oh, you're already standing, thank you. Samantha is originally from Lynn. She has a bachelor's degree from Salem State University and a master's degree in Homeland Security from Endicott. She has a proud family history of police officers in her family and is following in their footsteps. We know that she will bring much value to our police department, and we're so glad to have her. Last but not least, Officer Kevin Kaufman. And I'll have Kevin's parents stand up. Kevin Kaufman graduated from the academy in mid-April. He graduated originally from Anna Marie College with a bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And prior to coming to Swampscott, he worked for the Department of Homeland Security with the TSA. He graduated from the field training program and is out and about patrolling our streets now. So I didn't know if Kevin would be here tonight, and I said, if you see a young kid, good-looking, dapper young man in uniform with a great smile, you know that's him. Thank you. So this is for all our police officers. Whether you are newly entering this profession or taking on even greater responsibilities in the department requires immense courage, resilience, and a profound sense of duty. The badge and the patch we wear is a symbol entrusted upon us to stand as guardians and protectors with an unwavering amount of integrity, character, and commitment, not only to this badge, but most importantly to our community. Remember, a community can only thrive when it feels safe, and only when it deeply trusts those who are sworn to protect it. To our newly installed officers, remember every day you wear this uniform. Know that you carry the hopes, the respect, and the full backing of our entire town. We ask that you be fair, compassionate, and have a heart filled with the desire to serve in all your daily interactions. To the family of those loved ones here today, thank you for sharing them with us. We recognize the quiet sacrifices you have made and will make in the years to come, and we are deeply grateful for your support. Welcome and congratulations to all of you.
We're going to have them, yeah.
That's an easy yes.
I think we're going to try to line up for a picture here. Congratulations.
Thanks for everything.
Right over me. This won't be a stretch.
Steve, come on. I don't know where you're from. Take a knee, take a knee. I feel like I'm a little taller than you.
Yeah, definitely not taller.
Everybody over here.
Thank you. Thank you all very much. Thank you all.
Great. Thank you, Chief, for those very kind words, and thank you to all the new hires and newly appointed title holders. I certainly appreciate every time the police force comes. I always thank the families because it's such a sacrifice that they're gifting to us to instill these officers to help us every day, and I'm glad that they got to join us for that. So thank you very much, Chief, and the town administrator for making that happen.
Nice to see you.
We're just giving him a moment to file out.
Thanks, Nick.
Nate is getting married in 11 days?
That's great. I'm glad we did that.
Yeah.
11 days.
Wow. And the room could be worse.
Sam Holy played basketball for Classical.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she's a pretty great basketball player.
Forward?
Yeah,
I had a feeling.
yep. Lethal. Really good.
Okay. Think we're ready, or we need another minute?
We're ready.
Okay, wonderful. We will now move on to the appointment of Registrar. Michael Bryson will be appointed. For those of you who don't know, we lost our current Registrar, Paul DeBoli, passed away. And I think I speak on behalf of the entire board when we're sending thoughts and prayers to his daughter Amber and his wife. They live on Reddington, and they're longtime friends of my family, and sending our warmest regards to get through this tough time. But we are here for the appointment of his prior position to Michael Bryson temporarily.
And would you like Katie to speak a little bit? Our
I would
town
love
clerk?
that. Thank
Perfect.
you.
Okay.
Yeah. So as Chair Phelan said, we are filling a vacancy on the Board of Registrars temporarily. Michael Bryson, our Assistant Town Clerk, is available and willing to take the position. With little time to certify current nomination papers and petitions, that's why it needs to be done in a timely manner.
So we're requesting the temporary appointment while I continue to diligently work to find replacements. I'm here to answer any questions.
What is the process for finding a full-time replacement?
So it starts out with sending certified letters to the chairs of the Republican and Democratic committees, which was done in the spring to fill a vacancy that has been on the board. And we got back a name of somebody that is in an elected position currently for the town. I did speak with that person, and they do not want to vacate their elected position. So it was back to the drawing board. So now I have been in contact with the chairs of the committees to see if they have anybody else. I've also been talking to some people in town looking for volunteers that would be willing to do it. It's a little tough when a lot of the people that want to do the election stuff are currently poll workers. So I don't want to necessarily take away that option for them being a poll worker. So there are some people that I'm going to approach and say, hey, this opportunity is available if you are willing and interested / available. Otherwise, it can't be anybody that is elected in the town or appointed by the select board.
Is it advertised on the website or on our social media? Like, how do people know? Maybe there's somebody out there like that might be interested. Are we advertising it?
We have not advertised because it is something that has traditionally, in pretty much every community, works through the 2 organized committees in order to identify someone for these roles, but it's certainly something we could add, for sure.
Sure.
What is the mechanics in our own bylaws? Is it to be assigned by the select board?
No.
It's all governed in the Mass General laws.
Okay, so when you need to fill a vacant spot temporarily, you're saying we are authorized by state law to do that? Okay, that's what I was trying to understand. Okay.
Yes, and as select board members, you do appoint registrars permanently as well. It's just this one is going to be a temporary appointment.
When is the expiration date of the term?
It is 4 weeks, or if we get somebody else to fill it prior to the 4 weeks.
No, I meant like, is it a 3-year term normally? Is it a?
Yes,
Right.
3-year terms.
But to clarify, the appointment that we are appointing Mr. Bryson for is a 4-week appointment or shorter if we find another candidate, correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. So go ahead.
I was
Are there other questions?
No, I was just gonna be happy to make a motion.
Second.
Great, so, well, here's the motion, I'll read it out loud because it has to be specific. So the motion would be to appoint Michael Bryson to the position of temporary registrar for a period of no more than 4 weeks in accordance with the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 51, Section 20, and further that the Select Board find the services of Mr. Bryson in the position of temporary registrar shall be deemed to be within the scope of his duties as Assistant Town Clerk, as there exists an immediate and critical need for a person to serve in the capacity of temporary registrar due to the pending statutory matters, requiring action by a quorum of the Board of Registrars, and where Mr. Bryson is familiar with the operations of the town's clerk's office, the role of the Board of Registrars, and the process for the certification of voter signature. As such, the board finds he is uniquely qualified to carry out these duties and shall serve the town in both capacities for the period specified. And further to acknowledge that the town clerk has and will continue to diligently seek to identify a person for appointment for the permanent position and bring such permanent appointees forward when she is available, and if such person is sworn into office prior to the expiration of 4 weeks, Mr. Bryson's temporary appointment will terminate.
So moved what you said.
So moved.
Second.
And we must do a roll call vote since I am online. So Mary Ellen?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Wayne?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming.
Anytime. We will move on to item number 3, discussion and possible vote on water and sewer rates for fiscal year 27.
So I have a few slides that I'm going to share. Patrick's here to walk through them. It is largely the same presentation that we gave last week, with a couple of slides that were requested in terms of different scenarios that we could follow, and we're happy to answer any questions as we go. How far forward do you want me to go?
I think if we go to slide 6, that's where the new material begins. So came before the board at your last meeting and provided an update on the FY26 preliminary operating results in both the water and sewer fund. And I brought you some information regarding a rate recommendation, which was a 4% increase in sewer rates and a 3% increase in water rates. Got some feedback, and I've added some supplemental slides we can go through tonight to help inform your decision. On the screen here, we have FY26 unaudited results for both funds. This is a little more granular than what was provided last time we met. So you can see we had some savings in expenditure budget for both sewer and water fund, 2.4% in sewer, 5.7% in water. That's driven largely by some personnel savings with people leaving. And we also had some savings where debt wasn't fully loaded in. The timing of some debt issuance was pushed out a little bit, so we didn't have that total expense. And then on the revenue side, we definitely had favorable results, which we discussed at the last meeting. They were driven by consumption increases in excess of what we estimated. And on the bottom of the screen there are my estimate of unaudited retained earnings as of June 30th, 2026. Those will be certified by the DOR in October, typically, but I provided figures there. 29% of budget in the sewer fund, 33% of budget in the water fund. The town has a policy that's been in place for a number of years to maintain at least 20% of budget in retained earnings in each fund. Next slide. So this slide is the rate recommendation I brought to you at our last meeting. I've added the relative impact to the average household user on this slide. I think that's helpful just to call it out for everyone who's watching. This would mean, on average, a 3.4% increase to the average homeowner's water bill for the year. $13 a quarter or $52 a year is what that works out to be. And setting funds at, rates at this level will allow us to maintain retained earnings that'll support some of the capital expenditures we know about that we have to take on over the next 5 years, and help us stabilize rate increases going forward so that we don't have large swings. Next slide. This is a table of the specific rates that are in place right now on the left-hand side. Those are our current rates that the board approved last July. And then in the 3 columns, 3 sections on the right-hand side, there are different increases. The first section is that 3.45% combined increase at the top. That's what I'm recommending. And the relative impact is listed below. And then we have a 2% increase that I calculated for you all to consider in the relative impact. Or, if we were to leave rates flat, what that would mean. On the top of the slide, I did put the increase that was passed last year and the typical annual bill for water and sewer for households in Swampscott. And all of these will fund the current year's budget. Obviously, if you choose a lesser rate increase, the prospect of retained earnings being higher or level at the end of FY27 reduces. Next slide. I also prepared, just for a discussion, I was asked to prepare a scenario if we were to draw down our retained earnings to 15% of budget or 20% of budget. Again, our policy is to maintain a minimum of 20% of budget in each fund. If we were to draw down retained earnings to 15% of budget, that would be a 22% rate decrease. And the relative impact is listed on the bottom of the slide as well. And to reduce retained earnings down to 20%, that would lead to a 14% rate increase. And we'd also have to have town meeting appropriate retained earnings in the amounts highlighted in yellow in December for that to balance our budget. And leaving those rates at those lower levels, we're spending down fund balance. We would likely have to have a significant increase next year to fund our budget in each fund. Next slide. This slide is a little hard to read. I'm sorry about the size of the data points, but this is meant to illustrate the rate increases that would be required in the sewer and water funds over the next 5 years for just new capital expenditures and general operating increases. So you can see in FY 27, 28, 29, we need 3%, 2%, just to fund those new capital expenditures and general operating increases. And in water, we have a small increase in 27. We would need a 3% increase in 28, 2.5% in 29, and 5% in 2030. These are just estimates based on the capital plan. Obviously, things will change between now and then. And then any increases in our Lynn water and sewer assessments or MWRA that we purchase our water from would be on top of these figures. So you can see there's a unsteady kind of need, and through rate increases now we can stabilize that for the households that are paying the rates. Next slide. This slide is just pulled forward from our slide deck last year, actually, when we were talking about passing a large rate increase and what the next 10 years might look like for rate increases going forward. When we had that conversation, we had a desire to stabilize rate increases, so we passed one big increase, which we did last year, and we have some modest increases in the next 3, 4, 5 years, so that we can get to a place where we're leveling off and we can confidently keep our rate increases at 2, 3%, something that is more in line with expectations for a household bill increase or inflation. And you can see over time the line on the chart, that's an estimate of where retained earnings goes. It goes up and up on the horizon. That's because we have a 5-year capital plan, but of course we'll have spending loaded in years 6 through 10 and beyond. That will require us to spend those funds. So it's just a forecast, but I thought it'd be helpful to rehash kind of the larger conversation we had last year when we were looking at such a large increase. And the rates that we're proposing this year are in line with kind of what we were anticipating doing this year and the next couple of years. Next slide. These are data points that I pulled on our MWRA assessments by fiscal year. You can see those fluctuate a little bit over time. They're based on consumption. They run a year in arrears, and they run on a calendar year basis for consumption. So it doesn't line up perfectly with our budget cycle, but I thought it would be useful to illustrate. You can see the million gallons of water that we purchase from the MWRA listed by calendar year. And Lynn water sewer, the amount of water that we're sending to be treated, is also listed on the bottom. Those are just data points for, yep.
Lots of questions.
Okay. I may not be able to answer all your questions on this slide. We could have a whole,
I'll let you finish
another
too.
conversation.
I mean, if you have more slides to go, I'll let you finish.
This is essentially the end, so.
Okay, so why am I just kind of picking through the top level data here? You're going from 486 million gallons to 504 and then drops down by more than half to 206 in 2026.
The 2026 figure is just year to date.
So we're only in July, it's
We're only in
calendar year.
July.
That's
So
actually through May,
Halfway through the year.
that figure.
Yeah, but okay, all right. It's not a projected, it's literally as we are now, not FY 27 that we've already started. I didn't know if it was FY 26 or it's calendar year is what you're saying. Okay, I get it.
The flow is calendar year, yes.
Okay. So, but if you were to break that apart in terms of like scenario, we're still less. If we're at 6 months,
It's as of May, so it's
It's as
5
of May,
months.
so
May, so it's even less.
So
Okay.
you'd be in between 24 and 25 if you did the math, Wayne.
Yep, I get it.
We'd be at like 494-ish.
Yeah, it's in line. I see
Held
it.
steady.
There's more usage in the summer.
But, yeah, and I also see that our, so in 2024, our flow back to Lynn Water and Sewer was significantly higher. It still remains significantly higher by almost 30%. And that's attributed to what?
Could be a number of things, but I think stormwater that's flowing, being treated is a factor there. And as we do work, that number should go down.
Is that something that we're actively talking about? Not just from the infiltration, but I know that we're actually pumping water into the sewer system, into the sanitary sewer system, and being treated. And of course, that's pretty clear when all the communities feeding Lynn Water and Sewer, you know, they have, when you have heavy rains, the sanitary sewer has to release from too much pressure in the system. So obviously, it's massive amounts being pumped, particularly at heavy rainstorms. But that tells me it's a real, you know, it's a real cost impact. If that was level, how much is that costing us?
The flow from,
The additional sewer flow being treated.
I don't have a figure on that exactly for you, but we could
I'd
look
like
up
to
an
put
estimate.
I'd like to put a number to whatever it is that's over the MWRA coming, Gazinta and the Gazauta.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Patrick, so what's your recommendation? Can you go over that again?
Yeah, I can recap. So my recommendation is to raise sewer rates 4%, water rates 3%, and that would mean the average household would pay $52 more a year, this year for
And
water
that-
and sewer.
That's in line with what we decided last year, right? Is it?
It
Didn't
is.
we decide on a structured plan for the following 3 years last year?
We did. The plan was to pass a fairly large increase last year to get us to a certain place. That was passed, and this recommendation's in line with the path forward that we discussed.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
Patrick,
I think it's in,
oh, sorry, go ahead, Katie.
go ahead, Miriam.
I think what I'm hearing is that, yes, we said we were gonna get a little bit more stable going forward, but I think not seeing what are we actually looking at doing next year? How many dollars are really going into capital? And then how many dollars are going into capital over the next 4 years? What is the actual plan? Because we did we took off the SRF loan, the application for the SRF loan, because we weren't even going to be able to finish the work we were doing. So one concern I have is I'm not really seeing a plan on exactly how much money we're looking at spending over the next 5 years and what those assumptions, those dollar assumptions are going to really be. So I'm all for making sure, of course, making sure things are stable, but not really seeing little clearer data puts me in a concerned position as far as just going up 4% versus 2.5%, 3%. I don't want to go back into retained earnings, but I also want to be really lean, because that was a hefty increase that we gave people last year, and I received a lot of feedback on that, and there's a lot of hardship, believe it or not, for people in a position of being on a fixed budget. So not having those numbers is a little bit of a problem for me.
So the work that we based this on was the accepted 5-year capital plan. And I know at the last meeting, Patrick said that the SRF, which is, we pushed it out, we didn't remove it. The idea is that we believe we'll be able to complete the work in Phase 2B, and Phase 2C will not be necessary. So we moved it out a year. We didn't include it in the vote at town meeting. It wasn't that it was completely eliminated.
Well, we didn't apply for it, though.
Right. We pushed it out a year so that we would be able to apply in the future and come back to town meeting in the future and say, we don't think we're going to complete it with 2B,
Right.
we do need it. So it lives in an out year. The other thing that we've sort of kept an eye on, and Gina was, I think, rightly concerned that we keep an eye on, is that we're spending money on the force main study this year going into next year.
Right.
That will be a significant expense that we don't have a number for right now. And so we're trying to be as reasonable and responsible as possible with a predictable sort of idea for the ratepayer that it will stay in the range that you all had discussed when you sort of did the catch-up year, which was hard, and we recognize that, which is why we want to be as reasonable as possible. But the idea is that if we're predictable for the ratepayers and we know that this big expense is coming, that we'll be able to put a number to hopefully this fiscal year when the force main study is complete. That is a significant expense that lives out there without a number within this part of our budget.
Okay, that's a good point.
So it's sort of a question around, do we want to hold it as like, I think there's a stabilization account as an example. Do we want to move some of it to, and that stabilization is expressly used for capital? There's different ways that we can look to make sure that everyone feels comfortable that this money is going to go to the right place when it's needed. But it's certainly, it's reasonable to say is 2.25, 2.5, 3. That's why we wanted to provide as much information as possible that was requested in the last meeting, so you all could make an informed decision.
Does this money just sit in the enterprise fund?
Yeah.
Yes, so retained earnings
Retained
are,
earnings.
Yeah, like,
remain within the enterprise fund and
That's
can
what
be
I was trying-
appropriated for any purpose within that sphere.
How much do we have in that right now?
And retained earnings,
It's on the
it's on the
first slide.
slide, yep. It's actually right there on the bottom of this
Bottom.
slide on the screen. That's my unaudited estimate of
Okay.
where we are. So 1 million in the sewer fund and 1.5 in the water fund.
I just want to go back to the infrastructure conversation really quick, because I remember Gino very explicitly saying, sort of what keeps him up at night is that those force mains, and that it's not a if, it's a when sort of situation. And the whole conversation last year was really trying to factor in somewhat of a wild card. Like, we know it's going to happen. It's very expensive. We don't know sort of when we're going to have to do it, but we know we are going to have to do it. And how can we do our best to stabilize out the increases, even taking into account that risk? So I totally understand not wanting to just increase for the sake of increasing, but I think if we have targets like that, that we are saving for, specifically knowing that it is to prevent a large hike the year of one of those whens, instead of coming back to the ratepayer and really, like having to increase the way we had to last year. I think it is far easier for families to take that increase than to take the hundreds increase in an out year when something catastrophic happens.
I think that's a good point, and I'd like to make a motion to increase the sewer rates. Increase sewer where are your actual rates here?
I think it's 3.45%.
that's blended.
3.45.
So
That's
I
blended.
make a motion
That's
to
a
increase the
blended rate.
recommended rates by,
It's 3 and 2, or what was the?
3 and 4, isn't it?
There's some specific motion language for you on page 13.
Do you?
Thank you.
there is?
Great.
Hold
There
on,
we go. Let's go to that.
page 13?
Yes.
I don't have a page
I
13.
don't, yeah, it's not. My slide goes from 12 to 15.
Patrick, would you like to
Yeah.
read the language? Do you have it?
Yeah, go ahead,
He's
Patrick.
bringing it
you can
over.
read it.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Patrick.
Thank you, Patrick.
Just chickened out. Okay, so I'd like to move to adopt the water and sewer rates as follow. Water rates, Tier 1, $10.67 per 100 cubic feet. Tier 2, $11 per 100 cubic feet. Tier 3, $11.37 per 100 cubic feet. Base rate, $17.29 per quarter for all tiers. Sewer rates, Tier 1, $8.79 per 100 cubic feet. Tier 2, $9.93 per cubic feet. Tier 3, $11 per cubic feet. Base rate, $24.62 per quarter for all tiers.
Second.
All right, we will have to roll call. Wayne?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Mary Ellen?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Thank you, Patrick.
I do want to make one comment, and I would like to make a request that for next year, we look at what would it cost to eliminate these tiers and to just charge for what does it cost for water.
Okay.
Okay? Because I am worried about these tiers. I just want to put a little bit more thought into it over the next 12
Absolutely.
months.
Okay.
And Patrick, also, if you could let us know what the cost of that extra pumping back to Lynn Water and Sewer.
Yeah, I'll work that up.
Okay,
You got it.
thank you.
Thank you, Patrick, for all your work on this.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Anytime.
Next
On a
week.
Tuesday night
Right.
after working all day.
All right, we will move on to discussion on parking enforcement.
So I'll just briefly introduce the chief and the team are here. He has a number of slides to walk through, and he and I have spoken a little bit last week. We anticipate that the board will have questions as well. So I'll turn it over to the chief to do the presentation, and we can sort of take it from there.
Sure, thank you. Thank you, Nick. I wanted to provide I know there's been a lot of questions on parking enforcement, so I wanted to provide more of a high-level summary for you and allow you to, any questions that you might have, myself and the two newly promoted lieutenants are here to give you more of a street-level view of, I can give you more of the 30,000-foot level view, but they can tell you what they have been seeing on the street, and I think that's really important. Next slide. So from January of this year to June of this year, a mid-year review, there's been 576 parking citations that have been issued. That's, if you look at it, we are just going about to be higher than our average total, which is for the last 3 years is about 860 parking citations per year. And I have a couple of graphs that you can look at. So we'll go next slide. The top 10 parking spots where we are issuing parking citations, number one is the train station, the depot. There were 105 citations, parking citations that were issued there within the past 6 months. Number two is Humphrey Street. We have issued 58 citations, and just for your knowledge, these are citations that were given to us by Kelly and Ryan. So those are verified, our parking citation organizations. So they are verified citations that were given out. Next is, I know a gentleman here earlier spoke about Vinnen Square. We've issued 48 parking citations, and many of those are in parking within the fire lanes. So there have been 48 within the past 6 months. What we've seen is there was an influx of parking citations during the month, or during January 25th through February 7th for the snow, for impeding snow removal. Again, the safety priority in that, the fire lanes, handicaps, that's what we're seeing in Vinnen Square. And the Uber drivers, absolutely correct. The other area is, again, something that we have dealt with for many years is the beach sticker requirements. Next slide. Next slide, please.
Yeah, it's not working.
Oh, it's not working, sorry. I thought Shannon was doing it. Again, I just wanted to give an update on the top 10 parking violations of what we've seen in the last 6 months, with it being resident sticker violations, impeding snow removal, recreation stickers, and so forth. Next slide, please. Again, this is just a rehash of what we talked about, 105 citations near the Swampscott Depot. What we are seeing, what our officers and supervisors are seeing, are the spillover from Columbia, Maple, Middlesex. That's where we see that a lot of out-of-town commuters start parking, which is causing these parking issues for our residents. Next slide, please. Again, that's just a rehash. We can skip that slide. Most of the concentration of the parking citations are occurring from 9 to noon. So again, that is, and our highest days are Sunday and Saturday, respectively, for beach sticker violations. So we see a large influx of our latest citations, parking citations, coming from the beach areas. Next slide, please. This is just to give you an idea of what Mr. Connors and I are talking about, as well as my team and several other departments, in that we need to look at creating rules and consistent rules and guidelines for parking enforcement regulations. It took me probably a couple years to figure this out. On Columbia Street, near the depot, on the even side is resident only, but on the odd side, it's a recreation sticker or a town sticker. We completely understand that, why that is, because it's affecting our residents in that area of town. But there's also things that we should probably start looking at if there's other ways of conducting parking enforcement and regulations. Again, Humphrey Street, from Humphrey and Reddington to about Marshall Street, there's a 1 hour limit on the even side and a 2 hour limit on the water side, the ocean side. So I don't have the historical knowledge of why that is. Maybe that's something we can or should look at, just for food for thought for the board. And then the other areas of town, I know last weekend or the weekend before, we had an issue at Kids Cove where individuals are parking and they're actually blocking other vehicles from getting out. And so our officers are out there, 2 cars, trying to find somebody on the beach. Is this your vehicle? You need to move it right away. So we see that issue. Again, that's for a larger discussion for the board and our town administrator to look at instituting some type of fee schedule or some type of delineated markings for that area.
Can we stop here for a second on the
Sure.
slide, Chief, if you don't
Absolutely.
mind? So I think it was 2.5 years ago at this point, maybe it's longer, the time all blurs together, but we're having a conversation about beach parking on Beach Ave and sort of in the Phillips Beach area. And that I think started the conversation to increase the fines to $75. So this might not be a question you can answer right now, but I'm wondering why the language didn't allow for all of the fines related to parking to increase to $75, or if whatever motion we made wasn't specific enough, or because I know for certain we also then revisited all the fees. I think it was that fall after beach season. And at the time, Amy Sorrow came in with all the fees related. Maybe they were not safety related. Maybe they were just fees within town hall. But I think we obviously need consistency, which is what you're trying to highlight here. It's very confusing for you all. It's confusing for the residents. But also, I thought we already did it. So I just want to figure out
Well, I think
why there's this inconsistency.
It's two-pronged, Katie, right? Because the fees are obviously a huge discrepancy, right? Why is it $75 on Ocean Ave,
Right.
but $25 on Humphrey Street? But the other piece of this is the sticker issue, right? So a resident sticker versus a recreation sticker, but they're really the same thing, right? Or they're not?
No.
They look different?
They're not the same thing.
Yes.
Right, okay.
Yeah,
Yes.
they are different.
Correct.
So they look
But
different. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, so we did speak about some of this when the board met for its goal setting. And part of the conversation that came up related to this is the idea that perhaps we would create zones,
Right.
parking zones, right?
Color
Area where a resident would know from this street to this street is their residential zone.
Right.
And that is where they can park without issue when they get that, resident sticker. And that stickers potentially could be colored by zone, right? I think a lot of other towns do that. And if it's, the depot zone and the depot zone is yellow and you have a yellow parking sticker, you can park in it because that means you're a resident in that zone and that's where you're meant to park. But it doesn't mean you can go on to Ocean Ave and park with your resident sticker if that sticker's red. So something like that, we sort of floated around talking about and figuring out a way to make it equitable across the town so that each resident felt like it was able to park in its neighborhood without an issue.
What is it now?
It's
I
not
think
by
it's-
zone.
So if I have a resident, if I have a resident sticker and I live by the train station, when I get that resident sticker, is there any information that says you can use this within 3 or 4 blocks of your house? Is there any education there?
No.
That resident sticker is obtained at the police department, and there's
Right.
no charge to it. So when the officer issues that, they provide 2 visitor passes with it, and that sticker, their person is told where to put it and also what it's used for. But the miscommunication might be, or the misinterpretation is resident, and then they feel, I'm a resident of Swampscott, I can park anywhere where I see resident.
Right.
The recreation is more galvanized to a particular, like the zone that Ms. Phelan talked about, you can park anywhere there says recreation parking, so.
Right. I'm just wondering if we have to go with colored and this and that, if we can just make a policy that you can park within X amount of space of your residency, because when you write a ticket, you bring up the license plate number and who owns it, and, because you're already doing the work right there, right?
Yes.
So.
Yeah, but how would you'd have to put every single license plate in to know. How else would you know?
If you're writing a ticket on a car, aren't you writing the ticket?
It's
and
a handwritten ticket on
Right.
a piece of paper that's
You're not
I
writing
can
it.
show you.
Yeah.
Oh, you're writing it
And you
like-
don't necessarily query it into the state website.
Right.
Sometimes they might.
Okay.
But if you are quickly doing a street like Columbia.
Got it.
And you're scanning it, we instruct the resident to put their sticker on the driver's side rear, so that as you drive by, you can quickly see, I don't see one, that car is eligible for a
Okay.
ticket.
So that's why
Unless-
you're saying you should have a color.
I think a color zone is a great idea.
Okay.
In
All
my
right.
brief
The
opinion.
the colored zone would allow for, it's not interpretation of
Immediate
like,
distinction.
what is
right?
a reasonable distance from Columbia? You know, like
Yeah.
whether it's 3 blocks, 2 blocks, whatever.
There's one other question that arises, that if I live on Burrell Street, am
Right.
I allowed to park on resident on Maple Ave, which
Right.
is adjacent to it?
Right.
And in theory, that's up for debate, but I get what they're trying to do.
It just seems to be like, so, and it's an education issue, right? Because you have to think, some people that are just moving to Swampscott have no idea what the differentiator is and where they can park, where they can't. And to your point, they think they have a resident sticker, they can park wherever, right? So that's one problem. But to me, it's not just parking. Parking coincides, in my mind, with safety, right? Because there's a bigger piece here. Sure, we have problems with parking and people getting tickets, but we have problems with just safety in terms of drivers driving. So it's a bigger issue in my mind. I correlate the driving with parking and safety.
The safety component we think of, I think, as a patrol officer would be, can a fire truck get down this street?
Right.
Is it parking on both sides that's bottlenecking it?
Right.
And that is a huge issue. The other one is the sidewalk threshold. Can a person pushing a baby stroller get by
Exactly.
safely without having to
Right.
go out into the
Yeah,
street?
I'd
Yeah.
be good to identify those areas, I think of Cedar Hill Terrace, for instance, right, that
Right.
we've talked about, there is no definition of road to sidewalk, and I do have concerns. It's one example of many areas in town that are very tight, right, is coming up with at least some consistent rules as to what defines the limit to where they can park so that there is safe passage for pedestrians. I just think it's just inconsistent.
Can I make a suggestion? I'm fast forwarding a little bit, and I see you have a nice slide here about modernizing Swampscott parking that might be a good guide for us to give us some talking points to organize our conversation.
Well, I think, do you
I
have
think
some,
that's
sorry, go ahead, Katie.
Yeah, that's
okay,
exactly.
that's the next slide, so.
That is exactly what we're trying to get to. Not only an overview of the parking citations and what we're seeing on the street level, but really looking at reinstituting, reconsidering our parking regulations townwide. That is just everything that we just talked about what's resident versus recreation, what area is resident versus recreation. And some of the things in creating a universal townwide access for parking. I'm not saying that'll work, just an idea to spur some thought for the board to consider. And so that's truly what I wanted to get out with this presentation tonight. That is essentially the bulk of it, of the conversation.
And I did want to, I know that at one point we had, during the school year, we definitely have a traffic safety officer, or we had in the past. And I really think, in terms of calling it a traffic officer, that's really not what it should be. It should be a safety officer, right? And I think we need to get back to that. I think that's a key piece. We were talking about the school issue earlier, and, the issues that might have been created by the new elementary school, to revisit that because of the neighborhood and because of the safety of the kids. And I think that this is right in line with that, but we definitely need a point person from.
Yes, and that is, you know,
And it
that's
was
why I
done
made
really beautifully
such a big
by-
deal with the new hires, because that's why we had to, one of the reasons why we had to reinstitute Officer Reen, Kevin Reen, back into patrol while we had a number of vacancies
Yeah.
and positions to fill. But our hope is that he will be back before the school year. Absolutely.
He was tremendous with
Yes.
Officer Wilson at it, and really, for the school year time, it worked beautifully, but that's not the only problem we have. Obviously, there are other safety concerns and parking issues, and I think we need to dedicate a body to really address those things.
Yes, and just to close this out for the next slide, and the following two slides, just to close it out, one of the other things that we had discussed is creating a consistent fine schedule, as Katie or Ted may have brought up tonight. And in looking at other areas, it's not widely publicized, and I was looking for Lynn, Danvers, Saugus, Marblehead, Salem. It's not widely publicized. Most of them start at $50 for parking violations. Not all, because it's very hard to find unless you actually have a parking citation from that town or city.
Yeah.
Well, you know. But generally, it's been approximately 50 from what I've seen in the surrounding communities. And one of the other suggestions is I saw on the City of Salem website, they have a map, it would be like an Esri map, that shows the parking restrictions throughout the city and where people can and should be parking versus resident parking. I mean, even going through their website, they charge $10 per year for every resident parking. I'm not suggesting instituting that, but just another food for thought in.
When I look at Parkopedia, right, and I'm looking for parking in the city, it shows where all the street parking is, how much the street parking is.
Yeah.
There's no reason if, we couldn't, work within that app technology to be able to make that incredibly visual for anybody coming into town.
Have we ever considered, or have we considered at all going back to having a parking matron or like a ticket meter lady? I don't know what to call it. I don't know what the term is, but a parking matron.
enforcement
Thank
person.
you. That's not an actual police officer where we're having to divert somebody that's a patrolman or, in a higher level position to actually just focus on writing tickets.
Yes, definitely.
Well,
That is.
I'm so sorry, I just have to ask.
Sure.
Could you also are we short-staffed? Is that the problem, why tickets aren't being written?
I think we're on track to exceed our averages. So we have, I think there's one position that we kept unfilled due to budget constraints. But when all of these officers that I announced tonight hit the street, we will be merely fully staffed at patrol officers. So to answer your question, Danielle, about one of the things that we discussed was right now, according to the CBA, it's an officer's job for parking enforcement. So we would be violating the CBA if we have, but that's something that we can absolutely, and Nick had suggested, maybe that's something that we revisit and maybe midterm bargain.
Right, maybe like an
I think
FTE
there's-
thing, actually looking at the.
I think there's a real value to that because I think some of this is also data driven and we don't necessarily have all the data we need to understand where enforcement should focus, how it should focus, education. And I know it's difficult, Chief, you and I had this conversation outside Nick's office the other day. The extraction of data with the abilities you have through the technology is difficult. And maybe if it were, outside of the scope of officers and somebody who, was able to sort of facilitate the data differently, it might be helpful to us to understand and ascertain where the needs are a little bit better. I also want to go, go ahead.
So Katie, were you suggesting possibly using, our established GIS system?
Yeah, I mean, some sort of technology, Wayne, I'm not familiar with Parkopedia, but I mean, something like that sounds interesting and,
I'm not suggesting Parkopedia specifically. I was just saying the GIS, the mapping in general.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's
Similar
technology
to
that will
C-clip
facilitate
case
that coupled with a specific, like a person that's not an officer who would be able to, you know, dedicate 40 hours to understanding and analyzing data, not just writing tickets, and being able to educate folks, coming to us and educating us where the trouble spots are, where the hot spots are, how we can help educate our community to understand them. I just wanted to go back a slide, and I know that we were talking about a proposed solution and townwide access potentially was on the table. I think it's difficult in 3 square miles of diversity to have open parking. I think, you know, like I don't have a driveway, but nobody's interested in parking on my street because it's a dead end, you know, in between Whole Foods and Town Hall. So it's not a hot pocket for people to park. But if I were a resident who didn't have a driveway, you know, by Town Hall, then it's really important to me that I'm able to, you know, park my car out front of my house and, you know, take my stroller out or take my groceries out or, you know, whatever the need is. So I do want to be thoughtful about, you know, the difference between, you know, equality and equity and trying to figure out where that middle ground is so that taxpayers are still feeling like they're able to get the things that they need in their small piece of the community. Especially when it's, you know, the rail community, the MBTA area, when it's the beach area, where it's Town Hall area, which we know is high frequency, and we know people are parking there, and we know sometimes people are overstaying parking limits there.
And the annual residency verification is a really interesting piece that you have there. I mean, stickers, and that would limit stickers to solely residents to be able to benefit from the program. That really is an do you have any recommendation on that, Nick, or any thought on whether or not that's something we could implement? Or
the places we were talking about are all places that do an annual permit, and it could be that the color changes, it could just be that the year changes, but it's an opportunity to make it as simple as possible on the enforcement side, to be like, it's red and has a 26, great.
Right, almost
Or
like your inspections.
rather than it's a faded blue that's.
We'll tell you that each year, the new design that comes out, for me, it was great because it stood out so much.
Right.
And from 30 feet away, you could see
Absolutely.
that. We did institute a new CAD entry in our database called parking enforcement, which is officer initiated, compared to sometimes we might have an MV parking problem, which might be phone generated. So we've had over 250 since May 12th, when that was implemented, of officer-initiated parking concerns. So to the point about the fire lane, that has been a huge help for us because it has been painted, it's clearly defined, and we can now ticket, and we have been doing that. That's to your point. But even as so far as the 9 to 10 a.m., 6 to 10 a.m. at Columbia Street, that's a time-sensitive area, so that's why you might see the average time between 9 and 12, because the officer that's assigned that section of town likely goes there right out of the gate.
So those statistics that we had, are those just tickets issued for parking as opposed to like moving violations, not speeding or anything?
Correct. Yeah, that's correct. So, and one of the things that we learned was, if I have 6 different supervisors, even more, working different 24 hours a day, we need real-time data for our supervisors to know what areas should we be enforcing, be looking at, because as an officer on the street, you already know where the parking issues are, but the data is not coming to us, and that's something that we are discussing with Kelly and Ryan to send us that data weekly. We send that information to Mr. Connors, but it would be good to know exactly where our enforcement has been, and just extracting this data took me about a week because it's not an easy process, and
so
with our CAD or our dispatch system.
So it sounds like you're kind of getting to the answer to the question I'm about to ask, but how many different zones do you imagine there being for individual residents if you had to split it up?
Talking about
Columbia,
like, if I can jump in, we don't have that answer.
Yes.
We don't have that answer now, and we cannot make an informed recommendation now. This would fall for me under the same idea that we talked about in my report, or that I talked about in my report, where we need the professional staff that are closest to it, and then also the administration. So Gino and I would be the ones on our side making sure that we come back to you with well-informed recommendations rather than seat of our pants, like 2, 4, 1, whatever
That's
it
okay.
is.
Right.
That's okay. I just
Yeah.
want to ask, just put the question out there, so it's not ready yet. It's fine.
Right.
Clearly.
But it's really the question of universal versus zones, and I feel like we've heard tonight that there's an interest in zones.
Yeah.
Obviously, the select board goal-setting meeting was something that I wasn't at, so I didn't hear that. This would be the type of thing that I think we would benefit from professional staff getting together, so it's not,
Yes.
driven by a neighborhood that's really highly impacted for a period of time, being the squeaky wheel, and we address that, but we don't think about how it impacts the other parts of the community.
Right, because it does have, it's not just police, right? It's fire, it's DPW, there's a lot of different departments at town hall that could kind of
Right.
triage this, right? And
Yes.
create like a meeting group or some type of working group to really address it and tackle not just this, but, other areas of safety concern.
Even a request like putting speed bumps in somewhere, we
Yeah.
should base off the mobile speed board, not
Safety
the
is
fact
right.
that
Yeah.
an individual believes. Let's get a couple of weeks of the mobile data and be able to say, you're right, or we get 3 cars in the morning that are all flying through, and
Right.
we need to make sure there's enforcement and education, but the solution may not be a speed bump. I just think that if we get into a model where we're more focused on collecting a little bit of data, working with staff that are enforcing, educating, or closest to it, and we come back to you with those types of recommendations, it gives everyone a better foundation to make the final decision. And that was sort of where
Yep.
I'm suggesting we go. It's certainly what we plan to do on Monday with the chiefs and engineering staff on vehicles.
From a policy point of view, I think there's a few things that we have to look at this through as you work with professional staff to provide a lens on providing those recommendations. Looking through the ticket report, I noticed there were really 2 types of tickets. There's public safety tickets and there's what I'm going to call annoyance tickets. Not moving out of your 2-hour spot, somebody without a rec sticker at the beach or at the fish house, whatever. But the fact that we have a $25 ticket for the fire lanes at Vin and Square when everybody sees the DoorDash drivers, like I saw one tonight, I think I would encourage us to look at a model of there's 2 tiers of tickets and somebody in a fire lane should not be getting charged $25.
I think we have to have that on the next agenda.
Yep.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Because
I
I
think,
think, I think we're a little,
insurance.
honestly, I think we're a little, when I saw that these tickets were 25, I thought, how could these be 25? We voted for 75.
that's exactly what I'm
How,
wondering.
how is this possible? So I really want an understanding of what happened here, not that you were on the hook for it, but how did we go from voting for 75 down to 25? I'd like an answer to that.
Right.
But going forward, what do we want to use tickets for, revenue or for prevention? And to me, the answer is clearly prevention.
Prevention.
We are not
Prevention.
using
Everything
them
is
for revenue.
prevention.
Agreed,
I
agreed.
don't care if you leave a note
So if we're
on the
doing it
door.
for prevention, then we need to make sure it's excessive enough where $25, at least in my perspective, is an annoyance. $100 is.
This is exactly
about
the
that twice.
conversation when we raised them to $75, Ted, because at the beach, people were just like, oh, $25 to park here for the day. This is cheaper than any other neighboring beach, so we'll just take the ticket. That is why they became $75, because then $75 became prohibitive instead of, a parking fee.
Right.
So I thought that we just blanketed across. We'll look back at the meeting. We'll see what the language was. Maybe we've already done this and we just have to catch up with ourselves, which is unfortunate, but we can do that. Otherwise, we could put it on the next agenda for August to talk about.
And frankly, I don't think $75 is a big enough ticket if somebody's parking in a fire lane. Handicap, I think, is already $100 from what I could tell.
It is, yeah.
I've been told it can raise up to 300 per
And I'm not
per state
suggesting we
law.
need to go to hundreds and hundreds of dollars, but somebody's parking in a fire lane. Come on, that's
Oh, but
not somebody forgot something.
Right. Well, there's a difference between someone's got their blinkers on and they're running in for 2 seconds or they're waiting for somebody as opposed to hard parking and you're gone.
No, I don't think anybody should be in a fire zone, to be honest, blinkers on or not. You
If you're
shouldn't be.
physically-
I'll leave that judgment
physically
to
in
the
the
police
car,
officers who are going to make
move
that
it.
enforcement
So
decision.
idea of the
Yeah,
fire-
They
I
should be
think we're
asked
getting
for that.
into the question that I talked about last
Yeah.
week, which is there is significant discretion that is left to them
Yeah.
Right.
to decide.
So-
Did they ask them to move along and they refused if they were waiting in the car?
Yeah.
You officers can make a great
And that is
decision on
left to
that.
them by law.
Right.
So I just want to be cognizant of that.
But my point is, we as a board need to come up with a policy understanding of, do we want
Absolutely.
public safety tickets to be excessive enough where you think you issue it
Deterrent.
once and
You
nobody
want it
does
to
it
be
again?
deterrent.
Right.
Right. And what's that correct dollar amount? To me, it's more than $75, because if I get a $100 ticket, I'm really going to,
And I
not
think,
that I would, but.
And I think to define what you say as a nuisance is 25 versus 75 versus 100, my bigger question would be is that DoorDash driver, not calling out DoorDash specifically, but any one of the
Delivery drivers.
delivery drivers,
Yeah.
you know, can you look up, hey, have they received 5 tickets before, and it really is a nuisance, or is that part of the discussion process?
We can't see that right at the spot of
Yeah.
the time of the infraction.
Just
We can
curious.
study it, but face-to-face, if that officer is committed to that sector of town and they are working 4 nights a week at the
Probably
4 to 12 shift, and they
Yeah.
come across the same person maybe
Yeah.
2 or 3 times, it could lead to that.
But is that something we'd be able to find out from the ticketing companies? Like if somebody gets a ticket 5 times a year, 10 times a year, we could.
Yes, that's something that we could sort and filter through.
So I'd be
Yeah.
curious of that, and
I
how
think-
many percentage of people.
It's not simple,
tickets.
but we can absolutely do
Okay.
that.
I would.
I think the other thing when we talk about tickets being deterrents, so obviously we raise these tickets at the beach. And if you go back a couple slides, how many tickets are still being issued at beaches for parking?
It was let me see if I remember.
41.
It has
So,
gone down because of,
41, so it has gone down, so.
At Phillips.
So at least 75 was obviously more of a deterrent than 25.
Preston.
I guess we have to figure out what like sort of where we want to get. Obviously, I don't think 0 is practicable, but is 41 citations reasonable? Well, I guess Preston Beach, there's another, 23, so when you add it all together, you're talking about 64 tickets for the year at the beach.
I mean, there has to be something at Eisman's. I have to think that lot at Phillips Park has to have,
It does have recreation.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what's different
Kids
is
Cove thing.
the Phillips
Kids
Beach
Cove?
Park area has a white sign underneath it that says $75 fine. You don't see that at Preston, and you don't see that at Eisman's.
Yeah,
In
it's-
Fisherman's,
Right.
it's a $25 fine?
Correct, 25.
So I think we have
That's
to
true.
also
Yes.
consider the equity of having a $25 fine for Fisherman's Beach versus a $75 fine for
Makes zero
Phillips or
sense.
Preston or Eisman's or whatever.
So, Chief,
Yeah.
I just want to be really clear here, and I'd like to let you know some of the complaints that I've had from people. We had a resident on Cedar Hill Terrace, who, it took him a year and a half to get any type of movement to have some parking, some focus on the parking issue there. And it wasn't until he contacted the select board, it was a year and a half, to collect the select board, did we start to get something going. We have people, businesses, that are significant taxpayers on Humphrey Street that are constantly complaining. I get constant calls of the lack of parking enforcement on Humphrey Street. And if you say, well, we wrote 58 citations on Humphrey Street over 6 months, that's 2.37 tickets a week.
so
So-
this is enforcement measures only. So it doesn't count the number of times that we've been out on Humphrey Street. And I think that came out to, it was in the hundreds. So just because it's not like, oh, we're here, we're giving you a ticket, a parking ticket, that's where I have to collect the enforcement measures versus our total calls for service for that particular street. That's why I said extracting this data is not very simple. But in looking at Humphrey, there was over 100 incidents. There may have been more, but there was over 100 incidents where we responded out there, not necessarily given a citation. And I have not received any information from any of our officers about these, even Cedar Hill Terrace. So I would just implore anyone, I understand the bureaucracy that a resident might feel, because it's not just the police, it's DPW with the signage, it is select board approval. There's, in terms of making sure that, hey, if there's an issue that they're seeing, that needs to be communicated, and not just to any select board members, but to us who are trying to keep this data and trying to understand all the issues. And so, again, just because these are enforcement measures doesn't mean that's the total number of times that we were out there for half the year.
So just,
Hold on, let me just finish here. I think that
sure, go ahead.
the reality here is we have to deal with a lot of complaints. And at one point, it was we had a Saturday meeting, and I had a request from a resident to request that Ingalls Terrace become resident parking because it was just overfilled with so many cars up there. So, and Katie had asked me, because I brought it I brought it to the attention of the board to get it onto the agenda, if I would just double check the signs, which I did. I went up and double checked the signs, and the road was packed on both sides. You could barely even get up there. The road's packed with cars, and it says no parking everywhere, but the road's packed with cars parking. And then as I'm leaving, a friend of mine called me and said, can I park in your driveway because there's no parking at Fisherman's Beach? I'm like, that's ridiculous. And I drove into Fisherman's parking, and I counted 17 cars with no stickers. So in the middle of a Saturday afternoon, I really have to question, are we really out ticketing, or do we just have a lot of crime on that Saturday afternoon that the police department had to be out dealing with crime? So I think you need to, I just want to make sure you understand, we get a lot of calls, a lot of complaints, and if I say, just call the police department, the answer is, I'm not calling the police department. So
yeah, I just want to reiterate Mary Ellen's last point, which is the communication piece. Like, generally, when folks are reaching out to me, they've already reached out or tried to figure out an avenue to reach out, whether it's the see it, click it, fix it. Like, they don't want to call 911. They want to call the non-emergency line or something like that. So if there is a better way for the community to be communicating these kinds of issues so that they get resolved faster, it would be great, Chief, if we could, communicate that to the community, because I think they're feeling, some areas are feeling a little exacerbated by, exhausted, sorry, by the inability of action.
Well, one of the things that I'm noticing, parking has been the thing that has kept my hair up, like on the back of my neck since I moved to town. It drives me nuts, especially when I had my youngest, or my oldest, when I had Jack. And I would love to go to Cafe Avellino on Humphrey Street, and I would drive down, and the same car would be outside so many times for like 5 hours, and it would be the middle of the winter, and I'd be like, I can't do this. I have to go find somewhere else. Because I'd have a stroller and diaper bags and all the crazy kid stuff that you have. But the board now, I think, has spent more time talking about parking since Wayne and I have been on it than since I've moved to town. So I think, to me, that reflects a single focus that parking is a priority for us, not only for enforcement, but I hope for continued conversations about how we can look to improve parking, not only enforcement, management, access, and opportunities throughout town. So I say that because, to Mary Ellen's point, I've gotten, people. I had a shop owner on Humphrey Street tell me she went out to sell somebody parking in a spot for more than 2 hours, and they were just getting something from their car that, it's 2 hour parking, and she got flipped off. And they went into their work, which was another business on Humphrey Street. I bring that up because people get frustrated and they just feel like it's not going to change. So I appreciate you putting the paperwork together, and I think this is helpful. I think it sounds like we're going to have a discussion about fine schedules, which I think is important. But I also, I know you guys are hearing our focus on parking the last few meetings, and I hope we're going to continue the conversations on it, because we have a 2018 report from MAPC highlighting abilities for us to manage parking, but also to look at new parking solutions on Humphrey Street that I continue to bring up, because I think it's important for us to think about what we need to do to expand parking on in the Humphrey Street area and manage it better. And I'm going to grab the third rail, and maybe that means having a conversation about parking meters or parking apps or something of that nature, so that we can assist parking management with some ancillary tools that will help get data and that will help with enforcement. So I'm hoping that might be something we can consider over the next several months, exploring at least the idea of that.
I second that.
I want to add a couple things. I mentioned before about markings, right, and defining physical location to sidewalks. The other part about defining the different pieces is whether or not we get more efficiency if we actually mark the spaces as opposed in certain high density areas, so that you don't have cars kind of inefficiently parking where you could have gotten 2 or more cars in that particular spot. Is that something that makes sense by a recommendation per your longer conversations? Another question I have is drawing towards directly to the Swampscott Depot. So you said you had 105 citations. You said a lot of those are from mostly out-of-towners coming in?
Yes.
For the most part? Okay.
Yeah, that goes back to why not park at the depot and get a $25 ticket rather than parking in Boston and having to pay for parking for $75
Totally understand. Okay.
or so?
One of my other questions is are they avoiding the MBTA parking area so they aren't, okay. So there could be open spots in the MBTA parking zone where they would actually be able to pay, but instead they're parking on a resident parking area. Does it?
I was gonna say, that's filled by 8.
And those are
Totally
paid
filled.
by app, so Keolis comes through in the morning and they scan the plates that are there and verify the.
Right.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that. Okay.
Okay, so I think we have some clear takeaways, Chief. We appreciate all the data. I think we would like to understand the ticket situation and why we're not at $75 across the town.
At least.
At least. Yeah. Well, I know that the select board passed a motion, so whether the motion was faulty or whether we haven't gotten to the motion yet is the question at hand. I think I have, and Mary Ellen has. We can always come back next meeting. We'll have ticket. We would like to have an understanding on standardizing ticketing across and whether it should be increased for a reduction in violations. So I think that's the first one. And then the parking zones is something obviously that's going to need to be well prepared and researched. So I think that's a little bit more maybe a fall conversation, but I would like to see some work started on that so that we can actually have that conversation substantively in, early fall. And then at the same time in that conversation, if we need to, we should address Wayne's commentary about if certain high density areas that don't currently have outline spaces need to have outline or should have outline spaces to help with some of the parking. Did I miss anything?
No, but we probably should, I think Nick is already on it, but convening a working group of town hall staff that will focus on this issue.
Yeah, and we used to have a traffic committee.
Yeah, I was about to ask that, yeah.
No.
I'm not suggesting we have it because while it had it certainly had its pluses, it often held meetings in the middle of weekdays, and so therefore it was not well attended, and I think it was under engaged, and it sort of missed some real like black holes of town that really needed help, and because people weren't most vocal, they sort of fell through the cracks. But I mean, maybe we should think about what the best path forward is. At the very least, we should have an asset at the police department who could be reached for safety matters like this.
Yeah, and Katie, I will mention 2 quick things. One, I think the concept of parking meters is something we should continue to just have as a concept to explore. But also that parking committee, while inconvenient, when I first moved to town, I had a huge issue of people speeding on my street, so I called my neighbor, who happened to be Mary Ellen, who put me in touch with that parking committee, and I think Officer Reen. And they helped put that speed board up, which figured out the speed limit average there on Puritan was like 34 miles an hour and a 20 or something crazy. Anyway, it helped fix the
We
problem.
used to throw
so.
tennis balls at them.
We
too.
still have that on Reddington and Salem and many other streets too.
But that committee was very
I
helpful to
just
me, so I'll give
think-
them a plug.
I just don't know necessarily that a committee needs to be convened for it. I think there are
I don't
probably some
disagree.
capable town staff and
Sure.
safety staff that could probably facilitate some of that
I
within
agree.
the scope of their job title, rather than trying to get citizens to all agree in neighborhoods they don't live in what the problems are and the solutions.
Agreed.
Okay, so thank you, Chief, very much. Thank you for coming and participating, and we will move on to the next agenda item when I find my agenda, which is discussion and possible vote on recycling and solid waste service contract and fees.
Thank you, Chief, lieutenants, new lieutenants, congrats
gentlemen.
again, thank you.
Yes, thank you very much.
I love these new lieutenants.
Yeah, it's live.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
So will be recorded.
yeah,
It'll
it
be
is.
recorded and posted, yep.
Yep,
Find it on YouTube, town.
You can stay if you want,
channel.
Yeah, I hear you. So just wanted to give a brief update. before we move into your deliberation. As you may have seen, we have a few variable message boards up in town now, in addition to a postcard that should be landing this week for folks to be noticed that the deliveries will be starting next week. Just to run through what these slides are, it's an update on the delivery and start date. It's the request for additional carts, how we're doing that as a reminder, and then we'll move into your discussion in greater detail that you will be having. So updated on both the delivery of the carts for recycling and service, everything moved back 1 week. When we were last year, we were talking about the 20th and the 27th as delivery and starting dates. It's now the week of the 27th, which is next Monday. The barrels will arrive in town. They'll begin being distributed on Tuesday. In addition, the automated pickup for both trash and recycling will begin the following Monday. And it'll be on your normal day outside your property. Again, service. We anticipate there will be some bumps in a learning curve, but service will be the same. They'll be at the end of your driveway picking up your trash and recycling. So we are looking forward to that. On the requesting additional carts, we have the form live listed here at swampscottma.gov/trash. You can also come into Town Hall, fill out a piece of paper. We did that at the Senior Center as well, and Sabrina has some additional forms on site for folks that come that might have an interest. There's limited inventory, as we've talked about a number of times. The initial goal with this limited inventory is to make sure we can support primarily seniors and those with mobility challenges. Once we get a real sense of what the universe looks like, we have the ability to order more carts, but we did not want to have an inventory of carts that would never be deployed. We wanted to keep this manageable to begin with and then take the temperature and get a better sense for what that demand was like before we order any more. The final bullet is just to sort of tee up your discussion, and I'm going to turn it over to Wayne after this. We have a couple of slides that he had put together. This is just to sort of highlight the discussion 2 weeks ago. The range that you all were in for that extra barrel was, I think at the very end, Mary Ellen, you had boiled it down to it's between 150 and 200 when we come back so that we could sort of narrow the conversation. And then the recycling was approximately 100. It was a little over with the math, but in terms of the discussion about what was appropriate, I think you guys were coming together around $100 somewhere.
So last 2 weeks ago when we talked, so I should really apologize. I wish I had done this for that conversation.
You want me doing this? All right.
Thanks, Chief.
That would have been awesome.
I thought he was leaving it with me.
I wish I'd had something to present to the rest of the board so that we weren't just talking orally and trying to throw numbers out. It was unfair to the rest of the board to be able to have to force that conversation in the way we did. So I felt it important to kind of, and just in full transparency, both, of course, to my colleagues on the board, but also to the general public to kind of understand where these numbers are coming from so that at least we can have fair deliberation as to wherever we come out. So on the first slide here, I had created a trash cart fee calculator, and I threw in kind of two different scenarios and also compared it to when we started the program in FY21. So what we're looking at is just the service costs and the hauling fees, you can see, have gone up tremendously from $451,000 to $609,000. We have the same amount of municipal resident pickups. The tonnage, however, is significantly different. We have gone down. That is in direct reflection of the changes that we made back in 2020. And you can see the average pounds per household per week also compared in 2021 or FY21 to FY27. So if we look at what the per resident trash service costs, including, for transportation, including fuel, is currently in this contract $122 per resident. Back years ago, it was $88, right? Big increase. And then we take a consideration of, let's say we have a heavy load versus a light load. So now these numbers are taken as a range. There's no perfect answer for it, but this is for orders of magnitude so that you understand kind of where we're coming from. So that 200 and 250 number, that's pounds per cubic yard, but what that translates into for a 35-gallon cart is either 40 pounds or 50 pounds, right? 40 pounds is a pretty reasonable number when you're just kind of lightly loading but not pushing down and compacting. One of the concerns that I have is that folks that are using, the folks that will be using the extra cart are generally using more than one bag and will, if it was me, right, I would be pushing everything I possibly can into that, which means you're going to be slightly more compacted, meaning you're going to be hitting towards the 50-pound zone. So if we look at the tipping fees per ton, you see how much those go up. And if you look at the max weight per household, you come up with the numbers of 132, 165, and of course it was originally 121. So if we just look at just tipping weight alone, you're looking on the light side of $145 and on the heavy side, $178. Now, what does that actually cost per ton? The service cost, not per resident, but per ton. Just to give you an indication of how much that changed from 2021. The service cost per ton was $128 and now $203. And that's reflective also, you can see that at the per resident trash service cost up like the fifth line down up at the top. So you can see how much those have changed. And I'm not necessarily advocating that we address the service costs and charge towards that, but what I will say is that we've had 6 years of history where we have done it, and this is what I want to show you on the next slide. The next slide talks about the blue overage bags.
Wait, before you go to the next slide.
Yes, please.
Just to be clear, that the service cost for hauling, because you're calling it service, so the hauling cost is 203?
Yes.
And
That's 609,000 divided by the amount of tons.
and the tipping cost for a ton is what, 129, would you say it was?
126.
126.
This year. Yeah.
Okay, just want to make sure everybody remembers there's two fees attached to trash, hauling and tipping.
But this is, again, this is not actual, this is assumption, right? Because you're assuming how much each barrel is going to weigh. You're assuming it's going to be 40 or 50 pounds, right?
I think that's a reasonable assumption to make. 8%, let me just give you some of the facts of some of the information. So we found in 2023, the respondents to the survey, which was we had a good size of the population.
Okay, let's stop right there. How many people responded to your survey?
Over 950 people.
With 15,000 people in the.
No, residents.
Okay, 5,100 residents. So
Out of 51, yeah, that's just under 20%. That's a pretty statistically good number.
Okay.
And we found that 8%.
20%.
It's a statistically high number from a survey's perspective.
According to you, right?
According to most survey people, the range of error is pretty small. We're talking about just general perspective.
Right.
Of magnitude. So 8% used bags every week, one or more bags every week.
According to the people that responded to you.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
you don't know how much those bags weighed. You're assuming they're going to weigh 40 or 50 pounds.
I'm assuming that.
So he's assuming 40 or 50 tons of waste in blue bags, right? Wait.
No, 40 to. Let's go back for a second. Wait, repeat your question, Katie. Sorry, so I can answer correctly.
The 40 or 50 that Danielle is referring to, can you confirm what you were saying with that?
Projected capacity.
That would be the projected capacity of a 35-gallon barrel based upon known densities of trash. The high limit is 250. It just depends how much you compact it down.
Yeah, I think that's where my issue is. It's, well, I don't disagree with Danielle. Like, there are some we're doing the best we can with the data we have. Great.
Yeah.
But I think the supposition that a typical person is going to pack in as much trash as possible, I don't think is actually logical. I think when I think about my street, which is full of families, a lot of families with kids, a lot of kids who are in diapers, they are taking their diaper bag and putting it in one barrel, and then that is the one bag, like, they need overflow from time to time, right? When they change out the diaper genie, and they got to take that bag out. So that's their overflow bag. It's consistent pretty much for 5 years until the kids or 4 years until their kids get out of diapers. So I don't think we are just like finding random trash and shoving it in and making, making it all fit because we have an extra barrel. I think that barrel is utilized for maybe every week when you are changing the diaper bag, or that extra one bag of trash, I agree that your survey produced results that said 8% of people in Swampscott are using one bag every week, but I don't think the nuance of bringing on a new barrel is going to mean predictably those 8% are going to be filling it to the max. So while I agree there's like a margin of error to account for, I don't think we should jump all the way to the ceiling. I don't think we should be at the floor because it's not cost intelligent, but I also don't think we should be jumping to the ceiling because that makes it a punishment to get an extra barrel. Because if you're not the person who's filling it to the brim, then you're paying for a luxury you're not actually getting or utilizing.
Okay, help me understand. If we propose a second cart annual fee of $145, I'm just going to round all of these up to the nearest dollar. What is the worst case scenario if everybody who gets a second cart uses it at the full capacity or at median capacity or higher? Like what's the cost? What's the worst thing that's going to happen to the town if that happens? Help me walk through what's our con? What's the
Well, you're gonna have a higher tipping, you'll have higher tipping.
So we'll assume unaccounted for costs.
Correct.
There's also the issue that anyone needing a second barrel, okay, let me back up for a second. The average user uses, let's say, a half.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah.
An extra user will not only use the full amount of the first one, but likelihood most of the second one. Okay? So the impact is more than just assuming that you're compacting the second barrel. So if you're using 2 bags, you're definitely compacting. If you're using 1 bag to Katie's scenario, she's totally right. This is not 100% science, but what we need to do is you're charging for capacity. If you only need...
But aren't you just replacing the blue bags with this fee? I mean,
no,
somebody's going out and buying blue bags right now. You're already drawing revenue for the blue bags.
So,
this is happening in 8% of households. People are buying blue bags. We're already doing that. So you're just simply taking that blue bag cost, adding it on top of the barrel rental, and then they're paying it in a different form.
Hold on, Katie. Actually, what happens is that the blue bags have a much less weight capacity, and for 2 reasons. 1, it's a plastic bag, but 2, it's 30 gallons, not 35 gallons. And the other thing is you can compact a lot more into a large bin than you would into a bag that's going to explode. Right?
And you're assuming that your thought process is how every consumer is consuming, but I'm saying I don't agree. I don't align. People are either going to buy the blue bags or they're going to buy the barrel. They're going to utilize the same amount of trash. I really don't think that we're going to get an influx of people being like trash happy because they have a barrel to
let me go to the next. Let me go to the next slide.
Nick, did you have a
Just before you go to the next slide, I do think that...
I want to address Katie's question.
Hold on, but I do think that there is a very serious possibility people will get a little trash happy or a little bit more relaxed in what they do. But
I'm going to tell you, I'm 100%
because I was going to say, I think Ted is sitting at the edge of his seat, getting ready to get another barrel.
I still have diapers. I still have to survive.
But
I want to.
that's why that's why I just feel that if we have a bag, if we say bags are going to be what? Bags are $3.50. I don't know.
Let's go to the next slide, please. I don't know who's controlling.
Can I just add the one thing to answer?
No.
Yes.
I'm only kidding.
We are only doing this to replace the blue bags.
Right.
We would not be doing this if they were like, yeah, we can pick it up with the arm.
Exactly.
So I just want to address that directly.
The
only reason that we're having this discussion
with the trash policy that we put in place, if we allow people to get another cart, the reason we're allowing people for another cart is because the automation is a cost savings.
Right.
Right. So, and that's why I'm saying, if you just take the one blue bag and say, instead of getting a blue bag, just get an extra bin, that comes out to $180 a year.
No, it doesn't.
At $3.50, it does. Yeah.
Well, but
so we're getting ahead. We're getting ahead of the presentation.
All right, here we go.
Okay. Just let me give me another few minutes to roll with this. Okay. So the bags and the cost of the bags in FY21, $3, right? We took home the offset after you took away the cost of the actual bags and the tipping, we were charging the resident an extra $1 that we applied toward service costs into the fund, the enterprise fund.
So $1 for every blue bag went into the
Hauling,
town's.
went into hauling.
Went
Went
into the
hauling.
enterprise fund, yeah, to offset hauling. And I raised this point only.
The enterprise fund is the total cost. It is not hauling only.
Right.
It is the total cost of the contract that we subsidize annually.
It is.
So
It is.
it's
It went
important.
into the enterprise fund, but because the tipping, this is backing out the tipping charge, so what we're saying is we had an excess of $1.08 per bag back in 2021. That slowly degraded as tipping fees raised and the cost of the bags raised a couple of cents. So today, if we were using the same heavier load as, let's say you're at 35 pounds at 80% capacity, okay? Or even at a light capacity, right? Your excess reduced. So we've degraded the revenue piece of the bags as the years have gone forward. There are 40 to 45,000 bags per year. So what we saw in 2020, in FY21, is we had $43,000 that was supplementing the service costs. We're down now to somewhere between 34 and 16,000. So just to recognize that there's a revenue aspect of what we would be losing. If we lose 20,000 bags because people are getting carts.
So you're saying with this, that we were actually making money off the cost of the blue bags? Is that what you're saying?
It was being applied, yeah, it was being applied to the fund. It wasn't going to general government, it was going directly back to offset the rest of the cost of
But
trash.
still, I mean, my intent is not to make any money off of the trash situation. It just isn't. I didn't even realize we were actually creating a cushion from blue bags. I thought it was.
I don't know if we use that word a cushion at all,
I think
not
the
at all.
question is it your intent to have other people subsidize your additional trash? At what point, I don't mean your
No,
additional
Mary
trash.
Ellen, that's
If
why
I'm-
I would be buying the barrel to subsidize my own trash. I don't see how that makes you subsidize it when I'm paying for it.
Hold on, isn't there and I'm looking to the two technical people, Nick, and, well, I guess Mary, anybody who understands this. The difference there, the $1.08, that means the $1.92 paid for the weight of the actual trash in the bag. Is that right? And that's the difference, and the cost
Yeah.
of the actual production of the plastic. And there's $1.08 left over after that, right?
Right.
Correct.
Profit or
Now, does
revenue.
that $1.08, do we have an incremental increase in our fees for somebody picking up the second bag that we would not have assumed that fee if the bag was not there?
So back in 2021, we had smaller, I believe we had smaller trucks. And I believe at the time, I wasn't a part of the select board who made the fees at the time. But I believe the understanding was that you would make that up as, it was built into the cost.
Okay.
Of the total operation.
All I know is the lens that I'm looking at this through, I don't want to make money and I don't want to lose money on
Right.
these. I just
that's
want to be.
Right, I think that's
Right,
exactly
well,
the
just
purpose.
there.
We want to find
Right.
that sweet
The
spot
past 6 years.
where
we've
you
been-
are managing the trash
Right.
via the contract. You don't want to lose money, right? I agree with you. There's definitely a floor here. And if 148 or 150 is the floor, great. The ceiling of 200, if that's putting extra money to offset the tipping, I don't want to do that either. I want to just,
That's fine.
But is
Draw
there
even.
a marginal increase in the tipping cost, or is that locked in for the duration of the contract? Like, does
5% per year.
Yeah.
But it's locked in. We know the cost in the next 3
Yeah.
fiscal years.
Yeah.
Per ton. Yep.
So this rate would effectively go up 5% per year.
And then how does the gas fee go into that too?
It's included here, based upon estimates that we
That's
had.
that's just fluctuation in the hauling, right?
Yeah, it's basically, there's either an expense or a rebate based on how far it is from the pegged. I think that's the simplest way to describe it, right, Wayne?
It is. But if you look at where I talk about overage users' contribution to the waste system, between 553 and almost 700 tons by the overage users. If you look at 40,000 bags based upon the weight in those potential bags. It's not an exact science, not an exact.
They're stuffing it full.
No, that's at 80% full. Okay? That is just an order of magnitude so you can understand how much extra waste goes into the system by the users of the second bags.
Is there an ability
This is so
to-
full of assumption. This is.
Yeah, so I want to ask this question, Nick. Is there an ability after 6 months to reevaluate and to increase the fee if we determine we're not drawing enough to cover the amount of tonnage that occurred in the last 6 months?
I
If we
mean,
were undercharging?
we could, it's not a practice that we should be engaging in, because it doesn't
Of course not,
provide.
but considering this is our first time doing this,
Isn't
like,
this an annual fee that we're
I
setting?
don't want
Correct.
to
So at the end of the year, we can change the
overcharge.
fee.
You could. I would love to
Say
know
it.
what Nick's recommendation is. I would love to know what you think we should be doing here.
Hot seat.
Yeah, I want to know.
I think I've alluded to this, but it's the lower end of the range that you all have talked about.
Do you think that
And why?
effectively,
It's at 40 pounds per week, which is the number that is on one of these slides. It's just over a ton. A ton is $126.45 to tip.
So your recommendation is just pay you're just paying, your recommendation is for the people that are using more, just pay tipping?
My recommendation is that they pay for the tipping that is being
The capacity.
added to the system. Yeah, I mean.
plus the cost
Because
of
the
the
hauling's already included in the tax, in our normal taxes.
No, so like, this gets to the idea that Wayne identified, which is the philosophical way of how you want to look at this. For me, the service is already paid for. It's paid for, 609 should be divided by 5,100, not by the tonnage, to get the cost of
Yeah, which we showed it.
service, as an example.
So that
But
is
at
fixed.
126.45 a ton, plus a portion of the barrel, because someone may leave, and I don't think that a person should be responsible for the barrel in year one if they don't live here for the whole, like, they're paying for a portion of it while they have it.
Yeah.
That gets you to 138, 140, you know, like, so, and I think there certainly is a value to understanding that whether it's fuel that is going to fluctuate, right now it's above the peg rate, but in the projections we put together for town meeting, we assumed that it would stay above because of what's going on in the Middle East.
Right, and we use those projections for this.
Right. So my recommendation would be at the lower end, at that 150, 150, 5. Some, I just, it
But
is
that-
a
So
ton
to
of
be direct,
waste plus.
that 5,100, that service fee, the cost that we're paying for somebody to go to everybody's houses, that's divided by 5,100 houses,
Right. It already
regardless
exists.
of 2 barrels or 1 barrel.
Right.
Right.
There's no change.
Yes.
They're still going.
That's
Correct.
correct.
There's no
That's the
change.
$122
That's to
number
get to
per-
your driveway or sidewalk
Yep.
or
You're going
the
to
front of your
my
house.
No matter what, if I've got 9 trash bags or 1.
Right.
Correct.
Yep.
Okay.
No. Now, so here's it, because if you have now trash bags, if you're saying.
Let me rephrase that. If
No,
I have
not
2
for
trash
trash.
barrels
if you're-
or 1
right,
trash
but
barrel.
So now, but we're
Yeah.
saying, so now if you want to have a policy and say, okay, you just have to pay the tipping fee, then that means the price on these bags has to come down.
Well, you're not gonna have the bag. Are we still gonna have the bags?
Of course.
Yeah, you still have to have the bags.
You know, there are people
They're
that,
available for episodic use. The
Right.
idea is that a
So
barrel is
some
for a
people use
habitual
once a
user.
month, maybe,
Okay,
right?
got
Or-
it.
Yep.
right,
Once
so
every 6 months,
the problem that I have with Nick's position, I respect it, I mean, not that you're a taxpayer here, but I still respect it, is the fact that if you're using more of the service and you're putting out more trash, I think that you should be taking part of the burden of what it costs to haul that. If you're a heavier user, then that should be rolled into your user fee. Now,
I mean, should
the
seniors
problem,
not have to
Some
pay
cost,
for
though.
if you can,
school? I think
if
this
you
is.
let me finish what I'm saying. No, trash and school, I don't put them in the same category, Katie. But I think when you're using a service, you should pay your portion of the service. It should be divided out. That's what I'm saying. I think the issue here is we have a question of what is the fair number to have it divided out.
But
I
the
would,
point of,
if I could just, I agree. The average user right now is 2/3 of a ton. So if we're saying someone that is already a heavy user, we're asking them to pay more, that's what we're doing.
Right.
We're asking them to pay
right, the
for
second barrel's
the
not
added
free.
capacity.
55.
And we're assuming that they're going to put 40 pounds a week, which is bags close to failure,
Right,
stuffed into the trash barrel.
right. I mean, we're not asking for a second barrel for free. We're asking to pay $150 roughly for a second barrel. So I don't know how that would be interpreted as not paying extra for any extra usage. I'm simply saying, let's not gouge people and punitively punish them because they're asking for a second barrel, so we're gonna charge them for it and then hit them with an extra fee because we assume they're gonna stuff 50 pounds into that barrel.
The service fee, if we assume that, if that's a sunk cost, it's a fixed cost regardless of how many barrels we're doing, what is the financial reason to charge for their contributions to that even though it's fixed or sunk?
Well, because you're gonna offset the hauling overall. And there's two things here is, if you're already on a blue bag, if you're already historically charging, and you're saying that even the price on the blue bag isn't enough to cover percentage of the hauling, how do you turn around and say, okay, here's a bin for $150, but you keep paying more, the person who's buying the bag is having to pay more, so.
Oh.
But you're already making $1 on the bag off of the person that's buying it. So how can you logistically make them pay even more? I don't.
I'm saying,
Lower the bag cost.
I'm saying you gotta lower it.
Well, you said you gotta raise it. He was raising the
I said,
cost.
if you can hit the next slide, click one more. Okay, so.
Sorry.
So last week we had proposed 350. I had proposed 350. And the reason for that is that if you're staying consistent relative to FY21. Now, if you want to change that policy, that's fine.
Can you explain the philosophy of being consistent to 21? Expand on that a little bit.
So, right, in FY21, you can see the results of the numbers. What I was, if we were contributing roughly $1 back into the system, okay?
Oh, you meant the per bag
Offset,
towards town
correct,
service costs.
correct.
You wanted to increase that to get as much out of the blue bag user that we did in 21.
And also you don't want to be this is another piece of this. You don't want to be changing the bags every year because there are serious management issues with trying to do that because they get sold to retailers. It's a real pain in the butt.
Mm-hmm.
So just like we had them at $3 that lasted for 6 years, our cost overall went up significantly. That's why, I think it's not unreasonable to go up to 350 to cover ourselves moving for the next 5 years in this contract.
I mean, I will say this, I think, if you're talking about the blue bag being a hindrance to the service, right? The service is meant to be automated. So a person getting out of the car and throwing the bag over every once in a while is fine, but a constant bag user is a problem.
Right.
Then just as the parking fee, you want to make that fee higher so people don't buy the blue bags and people just buy the extra barrel.
But Marielle, you were just saying to lower the cost of the blue bag, were you not?
What I'm saying, well, if you're saying just charge people tipping, all right? If you're just saying just charge people tipping fee, then you have to say, what is the average weight of a bag?
Being consistent.
And that's the tipping fee. So maybe you're gonna have to drop that too. And I think if we do that, we're gonna take a hit on our overall dollar amount.
But shouldn't we logistically drop the fee anyway, because we're making money off of people buying blue bags, and that's not the goal. The goal is to break even, or as close to break even as possible. So if we're making $1.08 on every $3 blue bag.
We're making like 42 cents now at this point.
So what does this say then? This says $1.08.
That
was FY21, when we first started the program.
So in
We first started the
FY21,
program.
we were making $1.08
Yeah,
off every blue bag we sold over the course of 6 years.
at the heaviest amount, right? And we'd actually, if it was a little bit less
So I'm saying, I'm not in it to make any money off of anybody, right? Or make people pay any more than they have to pay, right? This is a convenience we're rolling out to people that were marginalized because we gave them a dinky barrel that couldn't fit anything 5 years ago, right? The goal here was to make them pay for a second barrel, absolutely, because they should if they're using more trash, but not to make them pay so much that it's punitive because they might use an extra bag a week or whatever.
Yeah, I don't think a dollar is punitive necessarily. I think it contributed back into the full system of the high cost of trash. Now, if you want to look at the next 5 years, though, we'll be getting underwater at that point.
How do you know that, Wayne?
Because you're going to go up 5% every year. You're going to be up 25%.
But you're also assuming people are going to put 40 pounds in a barrel, right? You don't know that either.
We're making massive assumptions here.
You make a
to
no,
get to
no,
these
there's a
numbers.
known assumption that the first barrel, where most people would have maybe 20 pounds or 22 pounds, the first barrel is going to be full. People are pack it in. People that use blue bags are packing in their
Wayne,
first
I use blue bags and I don't pack it in, okay? I'm going to tell you right now. Right? So you can't say that every single person using a blue bag is absolutely going to pack 40 or 50 pounds in a second. I can't be convinced. I've seen it on my street. Like, you might have one bag. Like, I can't justify charging people that much extra because you think they're going to cram as much as humanly possible in a barrel.
Could I make a suggestion? But I will do that after you bring your point, Katie, because I know you've been.
I was just gonna say, I'm gonna make this a little bit more complicated, so maybe your suggestion is better than. Only because, okay, because I'll just
Only
say.
'cause she's on
I
Zoom.
would rather charge more for the trash barrel and make the second recycling barrel free.
What?
Wait, can you say it
And
one more
there are
time?
towns-
I wasn't expecting to hear that.
I
Say it
mean,
one more time.
So right now, you're proposing that a second recycle barrel is $100, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I would rather go to the ceiling on trash, 180 if you want to, and as long as every person in town gets a second recycle barrel free of charge.
It's going to be a lot higher cost.
So the cost of, yeah, there's, I don't.
Because
yeah,
I think
don't
that
recommend
if you're gonna charge for a second recycle barrel, you are going to have people who reach a limit in their recycling, even though your recycling is huge and we're gonna get brand new barrels and they're gonna be huge. And I think Katie Holt stood up at town meeting and said, if you charge for a second barrel, people will reach a plateau of recycling.
Yes.
Right? You'll fill your barrel and that will be it. Right now, some weeks I have 3 barrels full of recycling, some weeks I just have 1. So it depends. I'd rather have 2 barrels of recycling and be enticed to take all of that out of the trash stream because it's free of charge for all residents to over recycle than and have a way to mitigate that through trash costs than penalize people for getting an extra recycling barrel. And I think there are towns that do this.
I
So-
have no idea.
So the average user, right, so if the full recycling barrel, which in other words, you wouldn't be getting a second recycling barrel unless the first one was full. A full recycling barrel would be almost 70 pounds. And that is based upon pretty good data that we have about the density of recycling at residential density. And you say I make an assumption, but these are the
Yeah,
facts.
because
These are-
I have 2 recycle barrels, Wayne, that are huge,
They're
and if it
60
weighed
gallons.
70 pounds, I couldn't drag it out to my curb. So no, I don't think your assumption is accurate. I'm going to say that right
This
off
is,
the bat.
these are 50% higher than the cost, the sizes that you have.
And I still wouldn't be able to pull the thing out if it weighed 70 pounds. I don't think anybody would.
So,
I mean,
hold on. If we had to, what would we have to charge for the trash barrel to give everybody a free recycling barrel?
I can't
Yeah, I don't-
imagine.
Like I appreciate the perspective, especially I recall when Katie stood up at town meeting, and I appreciate the point she made. We've told people we have to make a decision tonight, and I'm nervous that we're still, I don't know if we're any closer to a decision now than we were 2 weeks ago, but we've told the public we're going to have a decision, and we've talked about this for 45 minutes, so.
I would recommend we take the town administrator's recommendation and charge $150 for a second barrel. That would be my recommendation.
My recommendation is we take Wayne's recommendation of increasing and putting hauling fee in there, because if you're putting out more trash, you should be assuming more of the responsibility for hauling.
And I am, that's why I'm paying $150 for a second barrel. That's enough responsibility for me. I don't think I should be penalized because I use more trash than you. I'm already paying extra. I'm paying for the second barrel. That's
So-
my personal thought.
so
I think we should
it-
take a vote. Let's just call it.
Well, let's be clear on which our motion is. So I think if we're gonna vote here and we make a motion, one is on the barrel. There's 3 things at bay here, right? One is on the trash barrel, the other is on the bags, and the other is on the recycling barrel.
So I think we should take it one at a time. The bag. Let's start with the bag. So we're either motioning to increase the bag fee or motioning to keep it the same. So can somebody provide a motion?
Motion
make
to
a-
keep it the same.
Second.
Is there a second? Ted? Okay, so we'll roll call. Ted?
Aye.
Wayne?
Nay.
Marielle?
No.
Danielle?
Aye.
and I'm an aye.
Okay.
So now we move on. Wayne, what else was on your list other than the barrel?
Before someone makes a motion, though, I just have one question, and I will wait until someone's ready to make a motion, ask my question. Unless they want me to ask it now.
Ask it now.
Okay, so again, just to clarify, the service charge is fixed. There's no impact on how many barrels we have and how much
Correct.
waste we put into it.
That's right.
Okay,
Sunk cost.
it's a sunk cost. So the only reason we would make people pay for more than the weight of their trash is because they're a heavier user and we want them to help subsidize the overall
Right.
5100
We want to
because they're
penalize
using
them,
it
yes.
more,
We want
using
to
more
penalize
weight.
them.
Correct.
Yes.
Okay,
Okay.
so I'm just going to make the statement that
Was that accurate, though?
it is accurate, and I
Okay.
agree with you.
Okay.
Okay,
I'm
so-
just trying to get
so
the right framework.
I can go, and at least for the next year, I can definitely go down the road of saying, if we are truly fixing the cost at the per resident level, it's flat, then I would be fine in favor of that. However, I'm convinced that the weight
In favor of what specifically, Wayne? Sorry.
of just charging for the tipping, okay?
Okay.
Of the weight cost. But I go back to the strong feeling that it's going to be more, for those users that are using it, they're going to be consuming more weight than they would than the average user. So I would be leaning, maybe you don't have to go to the full 180, but more than 150.
So what is the dollar amount, Wayne?
So if,
What's the middle point between 150 and 180?
165.
65.
165.
That's that math up. Yeah, 165.
So why don't we reach a happy medium at 165? I'd like to make a motion for 165.
Second it?
Any more discussion?
And again,
Sorry. I go back to, we can raise it in a year if it's not enough, but we should start small and raise it incrementally if we find that it's not enough. I think to overburden people and punitively punish them for getting a second barrel to subsidize everybody else is not the right way to go.
I know. Can I make a friendly amendment to like 155? If 150 is not enough, I just think 165, even though it's in the middle, I think the supposition that everybody's filling everything to the max is not accurate. And I'll, be responsible if I'm wrong, but I agree with Danielle. I would ask to go to 155, but the motion on the table is
Always increase, but we cannot decrease. Nobody ever decreases.
Just from a monetary perspective, and I know we're all probably really excited to get this conversation over with, what happens if we come on the underwater side of this? Where does the money come from?
Right now, the entire trash contract is subsidized out of the levy.
So it'll come.
Short of the 100,
Comes-
it comes directly out of the taxpayer's pocket.
Okay.
The 104, if I'm looking at that right, for the FY '27 light, that are the town
104.
received, that's what would go into the
And we wouldn't,
enterprise account, and that would lower the ultimate number that is paid out of the, but what went before town meeting was the full cost of the contract with our projections for the fuel charges, just because as we were signing it, it was very clear that something.
So it already calculates in assumptions at the worst case scenario that this is not going to meet.
right.
yeah, we will be reducing our bag, we'll be supplementing what we were making in revenue for bags through the carts. Okay, just from the revenue side, not a profit or loss, but just in the revenue side.
Yep, understood.
Okay, so we'll be definitely, as people move towards that, the regular users, if there are 400 users, you're going to be losing another 20,000 bags of sales.
Okay.
It supplements one versus the other. So, look,
So there's a motion on the floor.
I'm just going to say this. There's
second.
really no hill to die on one way or the other. We're talking about, we're talking, this is just a transparent discussion for us, for the public. If you're talking about on a $2 million contract, a couple of $10,000 one way or the other, I think we're in the ballpark. So,
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Wade, but when we talk about it with water and sewer rates rising, with taxes rising, with everything
Yep.
else, but every dollar counts.
it does.
So I do think at 165, that's the motion on the table, but if we could just go down even to 160, I can't justify going that high over it. Could we consider 160?
But I think we're missing the point. We're in the neighborhood, but it's the right thing to do to not overcharge people when we cannot prove that theory. We cannot concurrently give them the numbers that prove $165 or $180. We can barely do it for $150. We don't want to listen to the town administrator who just gave us the rationale, because we want to basically punish our neighbors who are requesting a second barrel. That's what we're talking about here.
I don't think there's any punishment. It's
Yeah,
just
there is.
it's just a disagreement on what
No,
is the
no.
what is the density and what is the weight and what is the
No,
usage.
that's your discussion.
I can sustain that.
That's your discussion.
No, it is a discussion, and it's my discussion based upon some of the factors that I have looked at
Sure,
over a long, long
but
time.
when Mary Ellen is telling me that I am going to be, I should pay more because I'm asking for a second barrel, right? That's a different discussion.
It's a parallel, they're different tracks. I'm
Totally.
agreeing, listen, I'm agreeing with the fact of just charging for the tonnage. The disagreement we have is what the total contribution of that tonnage is by the extra users. If you want to go light, you go light. Look, it's not a hill I want to die on for $5. It's not. It's not. It's the fact that we do have to charge
It's $5
something.
if not my money, Wayne, so yeah.
Per
I'm gonna
per
do-
year.
Yeah.
Per year.
Doesn't matter, Wayne. I'm asking 5,100 users to pay X, but I can't back up that assumption. Yeah, I take it seriously. I don't want it to be more than it should be. When I ask them to pay extra in water and sewer and everything else
Yes.
that goes up in this town,
Yes.
yeah, I want to
Yes.
give people a break if I can.
Yes.
That's my goal.
Okay.
I'm not here to make money off blue bags. I'm not.
So there's, nobody
Also-
will consider an amendment. There's
Are
a
we-
motion, there's a second, we can move to vote if there's no amendment.
We can,
that is
if you'd like
being
to,
considered.
I would move to amend to move it to 160.
Can I get a second?
I'll second that. Wait, what was
Okay.
it originally?
160.
Was 165.
165, 150,
Went to
160, fine, sure. Great, second.
160. Okay, so the motion on the table is to have the barrel fee be, for the additional barrel, be 160. And for roll call, Wayne,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Danielle,
Aye.
Mary Ellen,
Aye.
and I'm an aye. Great, 160 then.
Okay.
Can't say we didn't
What?
think it through.
Hold on a minute,
That was
hold
the
on a
vote on the
minute.
amendment.
That was the vote,
Oh, sorry, that was the
that was the vote in the amendment, yeah.
Okay,
now
so
we
the
need a
motion,
roll call vote for the barrel being 160. Sorry, thank you. Wayne,
aye.
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Danielle,
Aye.
Aye.
Mary Ellen,
Aye.
and Katie's an aye. Okay.
I can't wait to have this conversation next
Should we
year.
do a third time? No, I'm just kidding. All right, so
Recycling barrel.
recycling barrels.
I just lost my, I'll be right back.
So is there a slide on how we came to 100?
Yeah, I just
Yes.
got kicked out of the meeting, so I'm trying to get back
Oh,
in.
okay.
I'm jealous.
Do you want mine?
So now,
No.
I'm sure there's a lot of data. Is the recycling, and I know you walked us through this 2 weeks ago, similar mentality, but similar mentality as in we pay the service fee, we pay the price per pound based on the various goods in it, but we
Yep.
also get a refund up based on the goods and the amount they're worth.
Correct. And so the assumption of the return is conservative
Okay.
at around $25. That can float. That is a difficult number to peg. And if we're looking from year to year, I'm certainly open to changing that number next year as well, whether or not it needs to be lowered or raised,
Okay.
based upon what the average, what they call the ACR, which is the rebate. So this is for every other week. And remember that this is the weight of a 96-gallon barrel, and the ratio of a full user versus an average user is 6.4 times on any given time.
Wayne, I'm looking at your calculator and it says 52 weeks. Shouldn't it be 26
Should be
weeks?
20, yes. Oh, crud. I'm sorry.
So
Yes.
this really
I
should be $45 cheaper.
That's bad copy and paste. No, the internal, the spreadsheet is actually based upon 26. The 52 weeks was a typo. Thank you for catching that. I'm sorry.
Wait, so the dollar amount is correct, but the weeks are off?
Internally in the spreadsheet is actually times 26.
I know, but what I'm saying is that 90.57, is that times 56 or is that times, I'm sorry, 26 or 52 because,
It's $3.48 times 26.
$3.48
Should be.
times 26. So
Yeah, that
that
math
is
sounds
not,
right.
That math's not right.
What is the 90/50?
It's 90/48. Yeah.
90/48.
I mean, there's some fractions in there. I mean, there's some, it goes out decimal places,
Oh,
yeah.
94.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
90/48.
it's off by 9 cents, but
Okay.
Wait, just walk,
I just-
what is the 90/57? Is that,
That's the cost based
It's,
upon
the
the,
cost-
based upon the full container. If you have to have a second container, that means you are using 6 times more than the average person in town.
how do we figure out that people are using 70 pounds of
don't.
recycling?
We don't.
I mean,
I mean,
I trust the
We have
projection.
no
one's gonna be
idea.
full.
We have no
I think
You know
anyone's
what
gonna
I'm
be
buying
full,
my
but for
second barrel for? Cardboard. Because
We
it's
have no
big
idea.
and I can't fit it anywhere, and even though I, cut it up, it's bulky. So if I buy a second recycling cart, probably one will be just cardboard. And I'm not filling it 70 pounds or however 96 pounds of cardboard because of just the way it is. So again, I mean, I hate to get back into this philosophical conversation
same
about
debate.
it, but
It's the
it's
same
the same debate, just insert recycling instead of trash. So
Didn't we talk last week?
102 is the ceiling, correct? Like the heaviest user.
That is that's the assumption of, 60,
Okay.
almost 70
That's a
pounds,
full-
yeah.
That's
At
a
100
full
it's-
cart,
that's-
or
that-
80% of a cart on the other side.
That's just the math of density of loose recycling per cubic yard is 126 pounds per cubic yard. That's what it comes out to be.
So it's a 69-pound recycling cart. And has anyone actually thought of the logistical, just the logic of a 69-pound recycling cart? Who in their right mind is going to pull out a 69-pound?
Most people won't be using,
Right, but if they do need a second cart, we're going to charge them for a 69-pound fully recycled cart at $102. That's this logic.
yeah, because the average user is using 10 pounds, 11 pounds a week. 20
Wait.
pounds over 2 weeks.
But not 69 pounds.
Yeah, how do we get from
96
that to,
That's-
to
yeah,
that?
Because you know that they're not using the full capacity. If you're using the full capacity, for those folks that need the full capacity, they're going to rightfully, as we talked about before, fairly pay for the assumption of the weight.
But we
But
don't,
you said the projected capacity
I
for
can't
overage
even.
cart is 70 pounds here. But you just said the average person is looking at like 20 pounds in their cart.
Correct, because they're not going to be filling it up every week or every other week.
Okay.
Look, it's 1,400 and, just do the math, it's 1,440 tons divided by 5,100 residents divided by 52 weeks. It's
Divided
10.9
by 26 weeks.
per week. No, if the average pound of household is
No.
per week.
Sorry,
that would be
yes,
52.
Yes, that is 52, sorry.
I said this last week, I'll say it again. My thought is we are disincentivizing people to
Yes.
recycle by charging them $102 for a second recycle bin, which ultimately, people recycling more helps this town. So we're going to penalize them by recycling more. It doesn't make any sense to me.
Recycling isn't free.
Granted, but it costs way more if those people don't recycle and stick it in your trash, correct?
Yeah.
Instead of
And why would they want to be
recycling-
paying an extra $150 or $160 for trash, and when they can get an
Maybe they
extra
won't.
$100?
Maybe they're not
Because
going
what will
to.
happen, Wayne, is
Maybe
they'll
they're
have
just-
one trash bag and some extra recycling, and they'll get an extra trash barrel instead of an extra recycle barrel. That's what will happen.
Yeah.
Because they can't put the trash
Or-
in recycling, but
I
they
do
can
think
put the
that way.
recycling in the trash.
Or they'll go to their next door neighbor on the one event that they have an extra little bit of cardboard and use their neighbor's, wide open, because the average is going to be using about a third of it, right, every 2 weeks, and take advantage of your neighbor's extra capacity.
The takeaway that I have here is-
Possibly, I don't personally ever do that, but I mean, no, I don't stick things in my neighbor's recycling bin because I have extra, no. I don't know that, maybe some people do, I don't.
I'm just saying
That's not my experience.
It's an option.
Sure.
So what would be, so $102, $103?
Hold on a second. Hold on, I just want to, sorry, I want to just also say that we are collecting cardboard at the end of the month for heavy users of cardboard as a pilot program to see how that goes. So if we can distill some of that bulk out of there
Right.
on a monthly basis, we felt that that was relieving some of the pressure.
But just
At
cardboard, right?
the bottom of
For
the
now.
screen, it says, "This places higher burden on the second cart user than the quote average household." Quantify that. What is that higher burden? Because I want to back that out of here.
So the higher, that was, yeah, so the projected, that's the assumption that if you're needing a second cart, you're filling the first cart completely full. Whereas the average user would not be, when the burden of the taxpayer is paying for the average cost.
And filling it full to what weight?
Filling it to 70 pounds, as opposed to 2 times 10.2 times 11, it'd be 22 every other week. I'm just saying that's where the math comes from.
Yep.
So in the same vein as what we were saying on the previous slide, can we back out so that I think the service fee should be the same across all users? And
It
this
is.
is just the cost of recycling. So this is just cost.
That is correct.
No service fee included in here.
Correct.
But this is assuming that the service is so above average that.
Right, the highest median.
I guess that's the problem here, is that the assumption that it's based on is so much greater than the average that it actually goes towards being cost prohibitive than it does going to be practicable.
Yeah.
We're first asking people to now recycle every 2 weeks, and then we're going to ask them to pay an extra $100 every 2 weeks if they want to recycle more.
Or you
Right,
don't, you don't pay
what are they gonna do? They're gonna
$100, you
buy a
don't,
trash barrel.
Still cheaper than the trash barrel.
Still,
But the trash barrel, you can
That-
put more stuff
I
in.
know, but
A
yes,
greater
the
variety
trash
of
barrel,
things
you
in,
can put
sorry.
trash and recycling in.
Right.
The recycle barrel, you can only put recycling in.
Yep.
So what will happen is the average
aren't gonna recycle.
overuser is gonna buy a trash barrel and throw out the recycling.
Yeah.
Which is not what we wanna happen. We want to have them actively recycling, just like they were, because that is beneficial to the town.
If we're talking about the
in
average,
the environment.
if we're going to talk, hold on, if we're talking about the average user uses 11 pounds per week or 22 pounds every other week
Of recycling?
of recycling.
22.
Okay.
That's the numbers.
sounds right.
That sounds
All
reasonable.
right, I
Right?
can see that.
So for the edge case that you can't fit every single week, that you can't
It's like
fit,
non-existent.
I really don't think you're going to have a lot of people that are going to need this. Time will tell. I really think this is the edge case.
So if we're,
Other than possibly commercial accounts that we do service, we still have some businesses on Humphrey Street, they're probably going to need that.
And there's a handful of residential addresses that have contacted us saying, we have large families.
Yep.
What, is this possible? And I said, yeah, we're working on, there'll be a fee, sign up now, we'll get.
so the average user in Swampscott is $22.
22 pounds.
22 pounds, I'm sorry, twice a month.
Every other week, yeah, 11 pounds.
Yeah, it's 11
20
pounds a
yeah.
week, 44 pounds a
11
month, yes.
11
So
pounds
this
a week,
projected
okay.
capacity of 70
Is-
pounds, this is just for the second barrel, not including the first barrel.
3x.
So
So
what
it's-
about if we change the average capacity down to 45 pounds?
Well, it should be 22. You're
Yeah.
talking about 2 weeks of recycling.
The capacity is just the capacity. It's not it's not the usage factor, it's the
But
capacity.
you said the usage was 11 pounds.
The usage is 11 pounds. If you have, let's say 22 pounds for every other week,
Right.
right? So it's all
Right.
the same time frame. So if someone's coming in
Okay.
and that is roughly going to be just less than half the barrel for
Right.
the average user. If you have someone that is consistently needing the overage, that means they're not only using twice as much as the average user, but over and above to fit in for a second barrel, then they're definitely taxing the system more than the average user.
Hold on, so can I just ask, if
This
we
is
went
where we
down to
go
the
left. This is
22
where it goes left.
pounds, what would if this is
Yeah,
the-
that's what I wanna know.
If this is the ceiling, what's the floor?
So if that red number has
Right.
changed from 69 to 22, is that what you're saying?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
If that's what the average is, we went down to the average.
You would take.
What would
two-thirds
that,
off.
what would that cost?
I'll tell you.
What would that cost?
Hold on.
Wayne's got the calculator coming out.
Okay, hold on,
I'm going to guess around $50.
less.
$34?
If I took the 69 and you said if you wanted it to be 22?
Yep.
If that's the average, whatever that average number you said was, that's all I want it to be.
So the first barrel effectively costs us in tipping $40.60.
40.60.
Actually, yeah,
And
well, that's including the $12,
that includes the $12?
yeah.
So that green
Okay,
number
so I
would be
can't
40.
justify going over $50 for this barrel. Just to say.
That,
What?
And since
Yeah, I
this
just got
is such a
$50.
fringe case and
Proposed
nobody's
one
gonna
is
be buying it
$50.
anyways,
Right.
I can't justify if $40-ish is the dollar amount we're getting on average for a second barrel, then plus the $12 it's gonna cost for the second barrel, like,
What is it, are you saying 42 plus 12?
No.
no.
no, he
The
said
42
includes the 12.
42
All
includes.
right, so I'd like to make a motion to,
$40.60. That's for 22.
Then go to 50.
22
I mean, I don't,
Yeah.
Nope. Want to offset that extra 5 on the other side. So I would make a motion to do the extra 96-gallon recycling cart for $42.
Second.
Where's the 42 from?
Hold on.
Isn't the 42,
4060.
$40.60. I think $50 is reasonable because you're talking about an average.
But
so
Mary
you have to
Ellen's
make up
going
the plus
to
or
more.
minus.
fine?
I don't like, I like round numbers, so I'm fine with 50, and let's just,
So anybody who's going to need a second barrel, you're assuming that they're going to put 22 in one barrel and 22 in a second barrel. You're completely undercharging. But
No,
No, we're going by your average that you just gave us.
the average user doesn't fill up the container. If you need a second container, then you're filling up that first container, thereby.
Perhaps, or maybe you just have oversized recycling that you haven't broken down. I don't know.
Right.
I don't know.
I agree. I think that's true.
Big
Just box
cardboard
thing.
that you didn't cut, and you can't, I don't have any idea, but I don't think you have 69 pounds, is my guess.
I can't argue with the survey numbers that were taken on a national basis, so I don't know what to tell you.
It's national basis, it's Swampscott, right?
No,
It's a
I
survey for people in Swampscott.
No, there's certain, multiple surveys that have been done. This one happened to be one that the EPA backed. That was a Washington State study for single-family commingled recycling at 126
Wait a minute.
pounds
So
per cubic
you're
yard.
basing this on numbers that are not even Swampscott? Is that what you're, please don't tell me that.
Absolutely, I am. This is, you know, there's a lot of data about national recycling, okay? It doesn't matter if you're using, you know, this is based upon a large residential component of people that, the average household recycling, which is cardboard, glass, plastics, office paper, and like 15 different things, all mingled together.
I don't want to
Uncompacted.
bury the lead. Mary Ellen was making a motion and
I second Mary Ellen's motion.
Wait, Mary Ellen, are you going to go to 50? Is that good?
No, she didn't.
I didn't, but I will.
Okay, so what's the motion?
My motion is the extra 96-gallon recycling, second cart, annual fees, $50.
Okay, can I have a second?
I think Danielle did, right?
Danielle, I thought you had.
Danielle?
Second.
Okay. All,
Roll call.
Ted. Sorry, Ted.
Aye.
Wayne.
Nay.
Mary Ellen.
Aye.
Danielle.
Aye.
I'm an aye.
Okay.
I appreciate and respect
Okay.
the nay.
Thank
So,
you.
look, I'm all good. This is
I get it.
this is about having a healthy
And
deliberation
I
and conversation. We don't have
appreciate
to agree
all
on
of
it
that.
all, but
Totally agree.
Say,
And I appreciate all the data.
I really appreciate all the time and energy you have spent on this. There's been a lot, you did provide a lot of data, you did a lot of digging, you tried to get the best information you possibly could and give us that information. I appreciate that. Mary Ellen, the
You're
same,
welcome.
you guys worked very hard with solid waste. Nick was involved, Gino. This was a laborsome, intensive scenario, and to open it up on situations that we have never had before. Wanted to say on behalf of the board, thank you both very much.
thank
So
you.
I just want to make sure the board understands something very important. One is, I want to say thank you, Wayne, for all your hard work here. You really put an amazing amount of time, and thank you for educating me on a lot of this stuff. The board, we need to really think, when we're moving forward with finances, whether or not we are going to have a trash fee, or whether or not we are going to keep it in our levy. And that's something that you've got to be thinking about. So that's one question. And the next question is, what is the true cost? So,
Good conversation for another day.
right, another day.
I have a spreadsheet for that.
When do you think we should, I would just like to understand, to manage expectations about trash fee conversations. How long do we predict that conversation need to occur? Because if we want to instill a trash fee by, like, if we want to have a conversation related to a trash fee, that would be instilled in a proper time. We're talking about, what's the lead time?
ASAP. And the reason why it's ASAP is we're looking at, when we look at our budget for next year, for 2028, we have to be honest about what is left is the unused tax levy. I mean, we have for the last 2 years significantly dipped into our unused tax levy. And we're going to have to really make some hard decisions on how we want to deal with it going forward, whether or not we are just raising the levy and keeping trash in the levy, or if we're removing trash out of it. So I think that for anybody who watches these meetings, you should be letting us know what you prefer.
Yeah, I think that was well put, and I recall at town meeting this year, I think the chairman of the finance committee had in his memo on the back of all the warrants that we should be having conversations about offsetting expenses and new revenue opportunities to help manage that fiscal cliff that we keep on pushing off a little bit more,
Right.
but not
And
off
you
enough.
also have to remember, there is a large percentage, or there is a percentage of individuals, taxpayers, that do not receive this benefit
Right.
of trash, you know, and
I think that's a good point. Almost every project that was permitted through the planning board in my tenure, most single-family homes receive trash. Almost every multifamily home greater than 3 units is private.
Yeah.
Right.
Great,
Or the
five or
condos
farther larger.
associations also.
right.
And all the associations are all private, and so most of the multifamily, except for single and duplexes, most, not all,
Right.
are private.
Yeah, they have commercial.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very typical. In fact, there's a
It's a good thing.
there's a statewide education process by the DEP trying to mandate those commercial facilities to recycle because they're not mandated to recycle.
Interesting.
We actually had a senior who came up and asked Republic to pitch their building to make sure they do recycling, because they're not doing it right now.
I bet.
So,
Yeah.
Right, well, that's, we should be discussing a bylaw.
Right, that
As far
requires it.
as requiring,
It's something that the solid waste, when my previous tenure, but for the last year, the solid waste advisory committee has been trying to understand, and I believe Emily has a survey that she's trying to put out to find out which multifamily unit properties actually are and are not recycling. So we can, I don't want to have to create a bylaw in order to force it. I'd rather be a carrot versus a stick thing.
Right.
So if there's an individual one-off, we can try to pursue educating on that versus having to do it. But if we're not having any success in that, then
Why wouldn't we just,
there's precedent. Other towns and cities have done that as well.
this just seems like something we would put in a zoning bylaw for the approvals that they would do, like we have trash as part of the
I agree.
site plan review. And whenever we do a multifamily or a subdivision, we have to get a certified letter from the trash contractor that they're contracted to do all the private trash hauling. So it seems, I don't know,
can
What
you
has
do
to,
it?
what has to happen to do that?
Can you do it just from the planning board side?
I would
We,
defer to Nick.
we can
but-
look into all of it to see if it's
Okay.
just a zoning bylaw change that can fall into the purview of the planning board.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Or if we need a bylaw that can be enforced through health or building.
But that would be for all newly permitted.
Yeah.
All existing permitted
Right.
projects would be grandfathered into whatever the existing regs are.
Or unless we affected a bylaw that moving forward, or everybody that has multifamily has to offer
Yeah,
recycling.
you'd have to do that through a general bylaw, but. yeah.
Right. Just the mechanics of it.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
I hear you.
Yeah.
This is not on the
Okay.
agenda, I think.
No, it's not on the
Back to
agenda.
the agenda.
Clear.
Well, it is, I mean.
Well, it's covered, it's
yes,
covered under
it's-
solid
it's-
waste services.
Yeah, it would be covered under the agenda item, but we will move on to discussion and possible vote on the Hawthorne RFP. You guys did a lot of work last 2 weeks ago. Crossed off some of these I see, so that's nice. So I just want to,
What does that say? 9:30?
I just want to talk about probably I want to go a little bit out of order if that's okay. The walkability, the streetscape, and the synergy. First, I think walkability was something that I added to the discussion originally only because the Vinin Swampscott Mall project had such a focus on it. And, we are trying, with parking being such an issue, we want to try to draw people into the space and then have it be safe for them to be walking around the space without a vehicle. So, I don't know, the more I hear residents say, just put the RFP out for the best thing and see what happens, the more I'm intrigued by that thought, but didn't know. So it seems like walkability, streetscape sort of fall on the lower end of the totem pole where they're nice to have but would not be required. And if somebody came forward with a super fantastic idea, I would reconsider. probably both of those, to be
I think we
honest.
should consider actually weighting a proposal that could combine all of the things that people keep mentioning to us on a regular basis, including the people that came tonight to public comment. So a proposal that could combine revenue generating, open space, and parking, I'm just going to pick those three things, would be weighted higher than one that focuses on just one of those items. I think we should consider that as a guardrail, or a potential guardrail. A proposal weighted higher that incorporates open space utilization, parking, and economic development, right? It might be a needle in a haystack, but saying that we would give more priority or emphasis to a proposal that can check all those boxes
Yeah.
might be something worth considering.
Like you could score an extra point, like if you
If
have the
you could
categories,
combine-
all these three categories in and of
All
themselves.
three.
If you
But
could
then
give
you
us-
have an omnibus category that you get a
Right.
bonus point if you did all of them.
Exactly. If you can create a park, and you can create a parking component and a revenue produce, all of them.
Multiplier or
All of these key factors, right? Because we constantly are getting people giving us these three separate comments. I don't want residential. I do want you to sell it because I need the revenue, and I need to park, right? These are the top three common things, I'd say, right? So if we can
Yeah,
find.
so I guess I totally agree and align with that. I guess the only thing I want to be clear about is what open space is.
I don't think we should define it. I think it should just be green space. I think we should keep it fairly general so that we don't back ourselves into a corner any which way, but it does have to have a component of, I don't know, walkable green space or whatever you want to call it, or I don't know how to phrase it, but.
But that's defining the open space
Yeah,
right there.
yeah.
So
Right,
we
yeah,
either define it or
know.
we
So I just
don't.
wanna-
Well,
I think we have to define it if you're gonna give credit for it, right? Because I think people will skirt the fringes
Yeah.
and be like, oh, well, these benches are open space. Like, is that and if you don't quantify it, I'm not saying we should quantify it, but if you're gonna allow somebody to say, I hit all three categories,
We should give
our-
guardrails saying how we define
Yeah,
those
it's our
three.
assessment of those three categories, so we should somehow define them.
Well, that
So are we-
part I haven't thought
Are we
closer
looking
about.
through
but-
like, there's active recreation areas, there's passive recreation areas. Are we looking through a framework of sitting on a bench and around greenery, or, I don't know, a amphitheater or some walking trails or something of that nature?
Right,
I mean,
right.
Yeah, I mean, this is like the heart of the Hawthorne issue, right? Because nobody defined it when we sold it
exactly.
to town meeting originally, so now we're defining it post everybody's supporting it. And so, this is the quagmire that we've gotten ourselves in, and I don't think we're actually gonna make everybody happy, because I think if
We're
you
not.
polled the audience of 300 plus town meeting members, everybody would have come up with a different idea of what they thought open space meant when the term was used when they voted. But if we could just give some guardrails, enough, right?
Right, something, I
I'm not
think,
saying
to
we have
try
do
to,
that today, we can sort of put pen to paper, come back next meeting with that idea sort of fleshed out more, maybe Nick can, there's a couple RFPs out there that Brian provided that maybe did this once or twice, that we could borrow. I mean, nobody's saying we have to recreate the wheel here, but as long as it sort of jives, maybe we could come up with some examples of what that definition looks like, and if we could get aligned, I totally agree that sort of if we hit those three marks,
it's like a bonus
That-
category, right?
yes,
That's what
yeah.
that's the only weighting that I'm talking about. I haven't really, again, I haven't quantified it in terms of how, but it just seems to me that the majority of people in this town have those three difference of opinions, and if we can try to make everybody give a little bit, maybe that could be like a bonus weighted
Yeah.
option.
when we say, go ahead, Mary, sorry.
Well, for me, number 9, the synergy with the hotel and the commercial corridor is really paramount, because that's what's going to really drive the downtown area there, that it all works together. The walkability and the streetscape, I think, I really don't have a whole lot to say about that, because it is where it is, so you're going to walk to it or you're not. The streetscape, I think that's going to be somebody's design or their idea, but the synergy in making sure that we can, really solidify the hotel and get a healthy hotel is critical for the town. The one worry that I have is putting municipal parking on there. And the reason why is if I'm a if I'm a company that wants to say, listen, I'll come in and build a X square footage facility that you can have restaurants, catering, a function center, whatever, I need that parking. So if I look at that and say, oh, they're going to want municipal parking, how am I going to have parking to support my business? I'm just worried if it would be a negative to the business, whereas.
Yeah.
Is it either technically or environmentally feasible to have underground parking?
It's
I'm sure
very.
anything
I
is
think it's
possible.
cost prohibitive.
It's cost prohibitive, it's
at that
what we're
point.
talking about.
Right,
From the
so
developer.
I spoke to somebody in Quincy who's putting in, I think, the town of Quincy is putting in, what, $200 million garage down there? And every underground space is estimate of $40,000. Yeah.
But with that being said, a geotechnical specialist would have to go there, figure out what they'd have to do to get it there.
Yeah,
But the
it would be
presumption would be, it would be quite expensive.
I don't even know if
Likely
they have
cost
the-
prohibitive.
I don't even know if the lot would be large enough to support
Right,
Right.
the structure.
the effort
It's-
of getting in
it's-
and out, you know.
I mean, also the
not
fact
that big of a
it's
lot.
not
That's what I mean.
landlocked- It's not landlocked and it's a retaining wall holding, I mean, I don't know, I'm not a geotechnical
But
engineer,
I have two
but I don't
responses.
disagree with Mary Ellen's statement, about the synergy to the hotel, but could you align with the three prongs creating the commercial corridor synergy, because we are weighing revenue and parking and open space combination greater, the combination of the three.
Say that again?
So by weighting all of those three together and then essentially saying you're going to get weighted higher if you provide parking and have some sort of revenue producing ability on the lot, are you not helping to blossom the commercial corridor? I'm not sure that it exactly synergizes with the hotel, but at least the commerce piece by allowing for parking, municipal parking and driving revenue. Don't you think you're doing that?
Mutually
I
exclusive.
think that,
No?
yeah.
I mean, can you say
No,
something to
I'm
the
looking
effect
at
that
it, I'm
you're
looking at.
synergizing with
Looking
the,
at it as a business person. I mean, I've
No.
been in business a long time, and if I'm looking at coming in and investing capital, and you're saying, well, I'm gonna weigh out municipal parking, I have to say, how am I gonna run a big, serious business that's gonna support this hotel and the rest of the corridor, and I also have to provide municipal parking?
But here's the thing, you don't have to.
But, right,
None of these
are absolute.
Right.
None of these are, and in my opinion, should be absolute. Because if we're doing that, we're dictating the outcomes, and I don't think any of us are commercial developers here.
No.
So if we are going to do that for one thing, we should have that conversation with multiple things. And I think if we do that, we get into a rabbit hole. I don't disagree with you. If somebody puts in a great banquet hall here and needs to have that for private parking, and they want to put together a gangbusters plan, great, that's great. But if
Consider
100%. I want every idea on the table. But if somebody comes in here and says, I want to put something else here, yeah, you want municipal parking, we'll give you 10 spots if it gives us +1 points, I'd love to consider it.
And
I don't know
that'll make
if
it a little
either
harder.
one of those is the right answer. But I know it gives us more options to consider if we don't rule things out. We just reflect what our priorities are,
Right.
and then we can evaluate each respondent based on our priorities. So yeah, a banquet hall could get 5 out of 5 for revenue generation and synergy with the hotel, and a 0 out of 5 for parking. But if it does some of the other stuff with it, it gets a better score.
Great.
The inverse could be said. You know, I only want to just tackle back to the walkability for a second, because you brought up the design standards for Vinton Square.
Yeah.
The only real reason we did that there was because we were trying to incentivize people to park their car out of the 837 spaces that they're about to be there, for all the folks that complain there's not enough parking there.
37 spaces.
837.
Little plug.
To encourage people to park once and walk to everywhere else there and not move their car again.
Oh,
I don't
that's what
think-
you're calling walkability.
I don't think we have that problem on this site that's less than, I think less than half, maybe even a third of the land area there.
Right.
So just, since you brought it up, I
Yeah.
just want to provide the different lenses for the two parcels.
what's the need, I mean, quantified, what's the parking need?
For downtown?
Yeah.
Huge.
I emailed you the parking survey during this meeting, so you'll see it when you,
I mean, I
Which
think
parking
we have to
survey?
think too
the
of
study.
having a
Oh, do we have
a
that?
hotel sitting across the street
I sent it to you
that
today.
is going to necessitate parking, right? I mean, the whole area.
Well, they're talking about valeting as well,
True,
off-site.
right, but, I mean, maybe some of them, maybe not all, I don't know, and the
They did
workers
talk
that are
about
gonna
that.
work there also. You know, and we're trying to amp up the development and the commerce. People are only gonna come if they have somewhere to park. I mean, in theory, it'd be great if they all walked there, but, you know, we have a parking problem without any of this extra development. If we're looking for more, I mean, that's all people talk about, is parking. Right.
And again, I don't think I'm certainly not expecting us to have spent $7 million for somebody to come in here and put a 4-story LAZ parking
No.
garage here. That's
Nope.
100% not what we should have
Right,
there.
exactly.
But if somebody's going to come in there and develop part of it, the Hawthorne reuse plans, I think some of them had between 20 and 30 spots, and say, yes, these will be open to the public, or the town
Right.
can meter them, or
Even 10,
whatever.
even 15. You know, if you could
Right.
give them that, you can give them some green space, and you can give them development of commerce, you know, restaurants, cafes, you know, economic development.
But if it doesn't work for their business, they just don't get the +5 points or
Correct.
+2 points or whatever.
Right.
I'm just a blank slate on it. I just want to see what developers bring to us, but I think we just need to reflect our priorities in here. And I think it is a priority to have some form of municipal parking if it's possible for their business, and if they want to try and find a way to get extra bonus points or whatever we want to call it.
Okay, so I think
so-
where
Wait a
go ahead.
minute.
So is walkability really the conversation about parking versus is it, we're kind of shifting, I just want to make sure we're.
Well, I'm saying we don't need walkability in there.
Yeah, I
But we need
I-
parking.
I-
Walkability to me is it's.
Parking's already on
one-
here, it's number 4, but walkability can be removed as a non-issue.
Right.
Yeah, that was my suggestion, along with Mary Ellen's, to just
That's
fix
fine.
it.
And number 4 was.
Should we
just
take off
parking.
streetscape too?
Right, isn't that a planning?
Well, I think,
Because that's covered.
Streetscape was one of their committees' design was to put some of the buildings on the sidewalk, and there was a long historical conversation about why to do that. It was a
Right.
placemaking conversation, but that was the lens that they were looking at it through.
so I think if we show no preference,
Yeah.
then we show no preference.
Right.
That's fine. I think in the air of what we're talking about, or,
Agreed.
you know, in the vein of what we're talking about, then we should leave it open. We should not dictate streetscape. We should let them come forward, and we should decide from the pool of
Right.
bidders, you know, what the best option is. Really, the only thing we've landed on is sort of like defining what we think open space is, so that if we are gonna create some sort of bonus combo of
Waiting.
discussion points, then we should be able to say the open space is X, when you're thinking about it.
And defining what the community use is, because
Right.
there's open space, but what are we going to actually be using it for?
Maybe it's usable green space, I don't know how.
Yeah, I don't
Open space and
actually
recreation
think
would
we should
define
be
it.
dictating community use. I think if it's open space, it's open space, and we shouldn't dictate community use, but,
Well,
We should dictate that it's public property.
Right.
yeah, that's it.
Period. And maybe there's a conversation we have about if
Green
the
space.
town has preferential rights to, I don't know, reserve it, or, I
Water,
don't know.
I mean, maybe it's to the waterfront, maybe it's to water views or something that,
from the street as well,
right.
yeah.
I think we have to define it in some respect, because I think if not, it just gets
There was some-
railroaded
There
over.
was some verbiage that Brian
Yeah.
sent this out. There was some nice verbiage in there that covers that. I agree with a number of things in this. I don't agree with it all, but I agree with a number of things in this.
Same.
And there,
Yeah,
there were some
same.
parts of it that were actually,
Yeah, I
I
agree.
found helpful.
I think, I don't want to.
Nick, you can take a couple of these off,
I
is
know.
what we're saying.
That's what we're keeping notes,
Yeah.
both of us.
Yeah.
So I think the only thing we haven't touched on is residential use.
We talked about that last.
I thought we said,
We talked about it
we
without
talked
you.
about it last.
I think we wanted to table it to have
I
a
don't think it
full
was
board
a
here.
decision in the same way some of your other ones.
Katie, yeah.
Right.
When you
Do
were,
you have thoughts on it,
Right,
Katie,
so-
that you want to do? You weren't here, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think that when this was all presented, at town meeting, that the Hawthorne Reuse Committee leaned heavy on residential use as the only way that a developer could afford, to be able to create this sort of mixed use space, right? That I'm not a developer. I don't know if that's true. I would prefer not to have residential here. I think that is not what the spirit of what was talked about at town meeting. I think that I have a preference not to have it. Am I saying it's a no-go? No, if that's what makes
Agreed.
the best and highest use of, I mean, I don't want a condo of $4 million homes here, But if they're hitting the other things, but they need residential to take them to a certain spot, I will consider it. I don't want to like narrow my choices, but I do have not a great taste in my mouth about it.
So I am an
Yeah.
absolute no on residential. I think that with residential, you lose more parking. I think tonight we had an individual, I'm so sorry, I forget her name, but
Paula Claridge.
Paula, what, I mean,
Paula.
I did agree with what, you know, what she said. I've heard this several times, that once you have residential, there also becomes a feeling or a claim to the property. And I think that would be a negative, a big negative in that area. So, and I believe that, I'm not a developer, but I also don't think there was a developer on the Hawthorne Reuse Committee, so I'm not really buying that you absolutely have to have residential there. You know, I'm just strictly for commercial and making something commercial work.
I don't disagree with anything that was said, but that's why I would prefer to score something that includes residential as a negative instead of a positive, but.
Yeah, that's what I was going
to
to
your-
suggest.
Like, if we go everything on a 0 to 5 scale and then a multiplier, if it hits the 3 categories that we're wanting, I'm fine with putting residential on there, but with a developer knowing they could get -5 points for having residential on there, excuse me. I don't want to cut our noses to spite our face. I agree with everything that Paula said, and I've heard it from a lot of folks, that, you know, if you're adjacent to a park and you live in a condo there's a sense of ownership, and we've heard that around
Yeah.
town many, many, many times.
But I guess
Yeah.
what I don't
Makes a
understand
great
though is,
point.
though, if you're saying, if you're gonna grade somebody negative, why
Because
even have it?
I don't want to, because I don't know if they're going to need that to present an idea that we don't even know of, we haven't even thought of, but it meets all of our other categories.
Yeah.
I still don't know if we would select that idea, but we should be able to consider every idea without eliminating something off the bat. So again, it is not my preference to have residences there. I don't think I'm going to go on a limb and say, I don't think it's anyone on this board's preference to do it there. But it is our preference to get the best possible project. And that may mean residences are part of a proposal that we can score negatively or not choose. But I'm not in a decision now to say we shouldn't have something, and that might limit the number of proposals and the quality of proposals that we get, because I don't think we're at that stage yet, and I just want to get the ideas that we need to get to make an informed conversation.
I think that's a great point.
So I appreciate what you're saying, and I think that was a good explanation. I look at this as a hard no for a couple of different reasons. It's just philosophically, it's both about, yes, people will feel as though they have ownership of a public area, which I believe was not the intent of town meeting. You know, it is whether or not it's an open space or it's a commercial space, it is a public usage area, and I want to leave it like that. I think there's a strong sense of viability of bringing that in. I think you're not looking at creating affordable housing there. You're looking at creating, you know, if it's housing, it's something that's going to be accessible only to a very, very limited, you know, part of the population. I was frankly upset 15 years ago when they put the Concordia in and blocked all the views, and the fact that it was not used for some other public benefit in a business area. So no, I just, to me, it's just a hard no. I don't want to taint the water, if you will, by even saying that it's a possibility. There's enough variables as it is. There's a ton of variables. I mean, a lot of variables, let alone every voice in the community coming up with their own. I think this is, for me, a hard stop.
I think we actually should move tonight to solidify that and to come out and say, no residential. I really think that we would debate this for weeks and months, but at some point, this body has to make hard choices, and we can't be so waffling on every single one of these. I think this is the one where we can definitively say, we do not want residential. Come up with some other grand plan that is fabulous, that is going to produce economic development and give us some green space and some parking, but we're saying no to residential. I think we have to do it. I think we absolutely have to do it and formally do it. That would be my recommendation, is that we formally take residential off the table.
Do I make a motion?
Do we need a motion? I don't know, but that's my recommendation, that we would not consider
If
residential.
you're just building consensus, I would agree, as I said before.
The way you described it, you could make a motion if you chose, but
You are able to make a motion by the duly posted agenda.
Well, I would make a motion that we definitively say, for this RFP for the Hawthorne property, we will not consider residential development.
I would second that.
Okay. Is there any more discussion, or you want to take a vote?
I just think it's like, we're going to debate this and continue to debate it as we should, but we have been doing this for years. And at some point, the rubber has to meet the road, and we have to give some serious guidelines as to what we want to see there, right? And we can say we want to see great proposals and combinations of things, and I'm all for all of that, and not really trying to limit it, but there are some things we have to limit. We've heard, Paula made excellent points tonight, and to Wayne's point, absolutely, you put any number of residential there, and it becomes, they own the entire area, right? And that is not the spirit of this thing. This thing has gone from being an all of a park to, I want it to be economic. It's not an absolute anything. But one thing for sure, I think people in this town do not want is residential there. I think that,
But how do you know we can get the other things we want without including residential?
this is a
But
special
there's one way to
property,
find out, and it's to put out an RFP that says we can't have residential there, which is the number one way developers make their money on the short term, because it's a guaranteed. So if we're saying we don't want residential, we are limiting the ability of us to get the quality of respondents that that parcel deserves. And again, I am not advocating for residential. Again, I do not want to come off as a residential guy. I am not advocating for that. I am just saying we should go into this asking for the best responses we can. And then if we get a response that has residential, we can
grade it
we
negative.
can grade it negative, and we can, I don't want to say be mean to it, but we can do whatever we want, right? We can
Right.
evaluate it based on the merits. But right now, we're putting, and I agree in spirit, but I think we're limiting the ability of us to get the responses of the quality that we may want. We may not get any residential responses if we grade it negatively. I don't know. But I want to see something on paper to grade, not just the idea of what we think might work there. And I respect where you're
Yeah,
coming from, so
yeah.
we're
No,
probably
I-
just going to have some disagreement, but that's
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I understand what you're saying, but I think that at the end of the day, this is a needle in a haystack property that is going to require a really special, out-of-the-ordinary proposal to really satisfy what the property is worth. And, throwing up a couple of luxury condos is really just not in the spirit of what the people of this town want.
Agrees.
Right?
We
And I
should-
think at some point,
Yeah.
that has to matter a little bit more than we've given it credence to thus far, right?
Well, I
don't
think
know.
by saying that the initial conversation that we started with, saying that you're weighing this combination higher than anything else proposed, shows, like, we're not just looking for condos, we're not looking for the Concordia at Hawthorne. We're looking for something that is going to be a renaissance for that area. I think it's very clear if a RFP respondent is worth their weight in salt, they're watching these meetings and they're hearing these conversations. And what I don't want to do is, I don't want to see residential, but I also don't want to cut off my nose to spite my face and lose the opportunity to just see something really spectacular. And then say, you know what, it's not spectacular enough because it has residential, so I'm going to pass. Like, I don't want to lose the ability to be able to do that, because we're not talking, I don't want to pick the best option out of lesser options, potentially, is what I'm trying to get at. So I totally align with everything that you and Mary Ellen and Wayne are saying. I just wonder why we can't draw the line in the sand after the responses rather than before we get them.
I would wonder whether or not we're confusing the ideation process to the people who the developers are going to be investing time in doing this.
Right.
And even if it's going to be a negative, it's a negative. It's something we've all agreed that we not prefer, but several of us, right, just don't want. And I don't even want to give a leash out that says, hey, maybe if you can do all this other stuff.
Because then you'd be enticed to maybe consider it.
Yeah.
And that gets away from the,
I don't want to waste their time.
But if we're doing
I
this,
guess if I'm, go ahead, sorry.
I'm hearing everybody say, I don't want residential. And we're hearing people saying, I don't want a residential. Well, if you don't want residential, I don't think we should put it in there. I don't want to grade you negatively. I just want to be really clear, we're not looking for residential. And if somebody comes back and says, this is a project we can do, and it looks great, but you need to have X amount of units as residential, I still think that, no, it's not great, because it's not going to work in that area. I mean, with, I don't need to be a wait, let me finish what I'm saying. I don't need to be a contractor. The fact is, residential, if we have residential, we lose parking. And we're saying here that parking is important, we're saying here that economy is important, and in order to have economy, you have to have parking. In order to have open space, you have to have parking. And
I think you also had height, you
But
had,
what if the hotel came in and said, we want to bid on that property as a ballroom, but we need 6 livable units there to make it doable for us. And they're not even going to park there. They're going to park in conjunction with the hotel somewhere else. We're figuring that out with that problem across the street. Like, what if they came forward and wanted to do that, and you removing the ability to have 6 units means their offer's off the table because they can't make it work?
but aren't they 6 units for a hotel? Isn't that in a different category?
No, what if they
Six
want to make them
residential
permanent
units.
residents, like they have that at West Hartford?
That's how you
They
do
have
your pro
permanent
forma,
residents
it's
in the hotel
guaranteed
in West
revenue on
Hartford.
day one.
Because it's guaranteed revenue, and it means coming in the door that they don't need the on-ramp, they have something that's gonna make them get through the lean part of the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
I think
if they have a ballroom already.
something like that is really interesting, right? It's something like that could be really helpful to that area. Something like that is in synergy with the hotel. Something like that could have open space as a wedding venue. Something like that could have beautiful walkability and a fantastic streetscape and would potentially have building reuse or something like that. But we're losing out on it because we said absolutely unequivocally no residential.
So I think that is a really good point, but I guess I look at that as I look at that as a hotel use, not as a condominium
But
use.
if they're long-term living in those units, then like that's residential.
Right.
Like the Four Seasons or the Ritz that have residences.
Yeah, they have,
Okay, so then I'm changing my mind and keeping it open.
Why is it residential if it's like the Ritz, like for
Like they
rental?
have residences that.
They have
live
residents like
above
at the
hotel or
penthouse.
something. They're like.
It helps
Like they're a
them
Red
finance-
Sox
Yeah,
player, like a
finance
Red
the
Sox
building.
player,
Those are like
they're Red Sox
timeshares,
players.
No,
No.
they're
They're
residences,
residences.
and
They
the same
actually
reduces
own
are
them.
condos. They're managed
Yeah.
by Ritz.
Okay.
They're a licensed management company through
Yeah.
Marriott.
Yeah,
I don't know.
yeah,
I just
I
think
still
that-
say no. It's not in the spirit of why we bought the
Yeah,
property.
I don't think it is.
I don't think Katie and I are disagreeing with that at all. We just want to see
We're not, we're
options
just
and
saying
make,
we wanna
have
see
this
that
conversation
option.
until we have.
Okay,
more
hold on,
examples in front of
that's
us.
fair. Let's play that out. Let's play the paradigm out that you're suggesting. And it comes in and says, we can get this to work. And there's residences there, and maybe it's the definition of how many residences or what it looks like. I'm still gonna be like, no.
That's fine. That's
I'm just
perfectly
saying, I'm
fine.
just playing
I
that
am
out.
totally fine with
Is there an
that.
amount of
You can do
money?
that.
Huh?
I mean, I
It's
just.
your choice. You could do that by leaving it open. You're able to say, no, the use isn't great enough or so advantaging the community that I would consider residential. That's fine. That's your choice.
And you
As
should
a-
do, right.
Okay.
I think that, I mean, if you look at the area surrounding, there's 6, 7, 8, maybe condo little associations, like within a stone's throw of this thing. And I
They're
just,
pretty big.
that's all you hear from people in this town is that we can't, it's taking away from the small town feeling of even 6 units, even 8 units. And I cannot get out of my head what Paula said, because every time you go to Eisman's Beach, there's a number of people that think you shouldn't be able to use that beach because they own it because they live adjacent to it. Like, I really do believe that point of putting a park there, this association will feel like they own it. And I think that takes away from what we're trying to do at the heart of it.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I need to think about this.
We would have to landscape design, but I don't want to get down that rabbit hole, but I understand the perspective. I agree in theory with it. My only point is, I would much rather have this exact conversation we're having
Yeah.
with
With
something to
proposals
look
in
at
front of you.
with the
Yeah.
proposal, because
Yeah, I
again,
understand that.
I don't want anyone
I don't know what
to
I
go
don't know.
on the Swampscott Times tonight and say Ted and Katie are advocating for condos all
For
over Hawthorne.
residential.
We're not.
No, I know.
We just want
I
to
know.
have something to react to,
know.
rather than to react to a concept that none of us have the professional experience to ideate what may or may not need to happen, and I don't know that.
So can we table this and talk about it?
Yes,
Yeah.
we can.
This is-
Think about it a little longer. Think about the examples
It's
that
10
were just
o'clock.
given. Think about other examples, and we can bring it back up. We have plenty of time. We'll bring it back up.
And people can call Ted and Katie and give their opinion on residential.
Right.
Yes.
Or Mary Ellen and give their opinion.
Well, now Mary Ellen's been, now I'm back, now I'm on the
She's in the
fence.
middle.
Yeah, Jack,
I'm not-
Jack Dooley
no,
answers
I'm
my calls
open-minded.
these days, so
Great, I'll
they
have
can
Jack
talk,
Dillon answer mine.
they can talk about Spider-Man all day.
All right, so let's, we'll put this back on. Folks can come to public comment and convince us otherwise, and we will move on to the consent agenda.
I mean, does it make sense for us to start having like public hearings about this thing? Is that
No.
a thing? No?
No, I
mean-
think we've done enough public hearings. I think now we have to make the big decisions.
Because we're just, I mean, we're asking people to come to what, public comment and comment and.
No, I was just making a joke, like if you didn't like what you just heard, you're always welcome to come to public comment. I
No,
do
no,
think
I'm
that
saying,
we've had
though,
a
does
lot
it-
of public engagement.
I
Does it
like
make
how we're,
sense for us
well, I
to
like how
do
we're
that?
doing this in an iterative process, because
Yes.
it does give the public an opportunity when they see it on the agenda to come and speak to it.
Right.
So
Is that enough?
I think so, and they're free to contact us as
Yeah.
well. And we've got a committee report, we've got 5
Yeah.
years of data.
But also,
Yeah.
let's not forget, Nick and staff have to go take these conversations, do the laborious work of
Yes.
figuring out how to put it in a rubric in an
true.
RSV format. For us then to come read once, wait 2 weeks, read again, get public comment on both of those times.
Right, right.
So there's a significant
There's a lot of-
runway we have in front of us.
Okay.
Yes.
Can we go back to the one we started with, which was synergy with hotel commercial corridor? Just for,
Did we start with that one?
this one we started with,
Tonight,
right? So just to be clear, we removed the walkability issue. Streetscape, we kind of shifted off that without me kind of getting a better understanding of what you meant by streetscape in general when you first proposed it.
That too? No?
We
Like
did.
where the building is located on the lot.
why does that matter? Why do we have to judge that? Why wouldn't we just,
Well, we don't. We can.
That was,
we can
I'm
leave it-
just making sure I
Yeah.
understood.
so
coming
can we
full
take that off?
Yeah.
We can. Yeah, I thought that's what we decided. Sorry, I
think
thought.
Okay.
I thought we
I
had
think
said,
there-
let them do what they're gonna do, and then we'll see what it looks like, and if we hate it, we hate it.
So
If we like it, we like it.
what does that leave? What is actually left if we've
Open
taken half
space.
of these things off?
It's not that we
Just-
took, do you mean, what does it leave to discuss?
Well, what are we, you know, what is the areas that we're still really talking about? Is it
Open
residential,
space.
open space,
Yeah.
synergy and parking? Or no? Do I have that right?
No, I think
Or
we.
building
I think you
demolition
guys-
still?
No, I think you, I mean, they're crossed off because town hall staff felt like you came to conclusions in the last meeting, so is that not the case?
I don't know about the building use versus demolition.
We briefly talked about that, but didn't come to it.
I think that one might still be on there.
And environmental standards, I'm trying to remember.
That
We
was.
took
The
that off.
environmental standards is, we already
took
have
that
the-
off.
We have the stretch plus.
That
That's
was
acceptable. We don't
okay.
need it to be passive house if that's not what.
Right.
And the HERS code,
I-
every year that we wait, the HERS code gets tighter, so
Right.
the building is getting better and better.
I thought it was not about the energy consumption, I thought it was about the general environmental standards of, okay.
So it's really
I mean-
residential, open space, parking, and building use versus demolition, right?
Yeah, and I think what we had said earlier was this idea of like open space, revenue producing and parking, getting some sort of bonus, thought
Yeah.
from us, and therefore that would prioritize it for any respondent, although not make it ineligible if they didn't have all three. And then that way they would understand the priority of it. We have to figure out if residential will be considered at all, and then I think we need to define what open space is a little bit better than we have.
Right.
So that they can understand if they do try to get into that, trifecta, that they are following what we believe to answer that call.
Do we need to provide a preference in terms of what the commercial space is going to be, other than just synergy? Do we need, and I'm not saying that it's, I'm just throwing this out, right? I'm not exactly sure how to manage this part of it, but if we have a preference in types of the type of commercial entities we might want to see, is there a preference that we can grade that on? In other words, some may want to see restaurants, someone may want to see an art gallery, some may want to see, an open market. I'm just saying there's been things that have been proposed over the years. Do we place these as, they're not hard lines, but do we place them as possible suggestive options?
I'm not a developer, but I think what happens, and somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, is that you decide how big the building is, you break it up into spaces, and then you go out and find tenants. You're not necessarily gonna know when you bid on the RFP who your tenants are. So I think it would, again, if we're talking about restricting a response, to make somebody tell you in advance that they're going to have
Four
you know,
pot
arts and
shops.
cultural tenant and
Yeah.
a restaurant tenant, like they can sort of give us some ideas of the directions, but I think, you know, unless there's something you don't wanna see there, like a pot shop or something like that, then
No,
I
I
think
want a
put that
pot
in the RFP, but I don't think we wanna
It's more tax revenue.
dictate that.
6 pot shops,
Did you
that's
get
what
that on
we need.
record?
Liquor store?
And a
No,
99 in a bank.
That's not what we need.
That would be great. Everybody will be.
I don't know how many licenses we have left, so.
I don't think we have any left.
So there you go.
On marijuana?
The use
Yeah.
is gonna be dictated by the use table and the zoning language, because we can't
There you
permit
go.
a use that's not permitted anyway. And I understand your point, should we refine that funnel, but
Yeah,
I
I don't know if we really can.
Yeah.
I would be concerned about the same thing that I
So-
argued before. like-
Yeah, right.
So,
That's right.
right, so to Katie's point, you have the building envelope, right? And you can make that do many different things, but if we said, you know, we would be wanting a large restaurant like, I'm not saying that's what we want, but you're gonna have to actually define that as a larger proportional space that has commercial kitchen capabilities, which is gonna.
Oh, my God.
I think we're.
Not saying that's what I'm
Only
suggesting, but you have to
because
define that to, at
I
the
just think
development.
like,
No.
when you bid out a project like this and you're building it and then you're thinking about tenancy and revenue over, you know, your schedule to figure out if you're making your money back in the time frame that your you know, whatever you borrowed, you need to make back, like, we need to make sure that sort of everything is open for the ability to have success.
Right.
And I don't think like it makes sense for the four of us to sit here and dictate what we want to see there over what can be there. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It's the same argument.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's 5 of us debating this point, though, Katie.
Yep.
So it's
Oh,
10,
I'm not
10 o'clock.
debating
Oh,
10 o'clock.
okay.
It's 10 o'clock, it's 10 o'clock.
Thanks, Mary Ellen.
Consent
So-
agenda, anybody?
I think,
All right, I think we'll take this conversation again, it's not done, and we've given the takeaways that we hope to talk about. People could try to define open space, look in Brian's, RFP, I think he has a definition in there, we can try to see what we have going on there, and then let's move on to the consent agenda, please.
Okay.
Okay.
Motion
So-
to approve the consent agenda.
second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Wait,
Oh,
roll
no,
call,
no,
roll
no.
call, roll call,
Roll
roll
call.
call, sorry. Wayne,
Aye.
Ted,
Aye.
Danielle,
Aye.
Mary Ellen?
Aye.
And I am an aye. Okay, is that, select board time,
Yes, I have something. So
please.
I think most of us are aware of the trials and tribulations of Lincoln's Landing that they've been going through. I just want to say that I'm in complete support of that establishment that has been in this town for over 50 years, not that particular owner. And I really feel badly that they are close to being evicted. They have a court hearing this week, and I really think that this is one of those times where I feel like it's appropriate to step up for the little guy, and I think that's what this board should consider doing. I have done it on a personal level, but I think we really should consider supporting this local business who has been here a long time. And granted, they having a legal issue, we do not necessarily want to get involved in, but that doesn't mean that we can't voice our support if we feel that's appropriate. That would be my suggestion, my recommendation, but just wanted to put that out there. That's all I have.
Thank you, Danielle. Any other board members have comment?
I do. I want to say thank you to Daniel, Moretsky, Alex, Darfis. Alex, how do you say your last name?
He had left, but it's Dervesh Perez.
Devesh Perez? Okay. And Nate Beisheim and Nathan. Thank you very much for always working so hard here. And I also want to recognize the Demento family. They lost Carol Demento. Carol Demento was a very big volunteer for our community. Carol was the head of the finance committee at the most critical time period of finance committees. Carol was the chair at the time, we left 2.5, Proposition 2.5. And I can just tell you, as a member of the Finance Committee, it's never easy, but I can't imagine what it was like at that time. So I just want to give my condolences to the Demento family.
Thank you, Mary Ellen.
I would share those condolences as well. Both of them have been stewards in this community for a very, very, very long time. Aside from that, changing the tone for just a second, I really think I'm going to go to what we talked about before. The community event with the FIFA World Cup was really something to see. To see hundreds and hundreds of people even come from out of town, gathering, and it was a nice community event. I'm glad the foresight between Charlotte and town staff was there to promote it. One little ask, more bathrooms. Lots of lines. No one knew, I don't think anyone knew it was going to be that popular. It was great. That said. Also, thank you. I want to thank Emily Westhoven for putting a lot of her volunteer time into helping with the trash rollout, and thank you to staff, both Nick and Shannon, and Gino, and the rest of the staff for working hard to make sure that this rollout goes smoothly.
Okay, thanks, Wayne. Ted, do you have anything tonight?
No, just to share my condolences with the Demento family. Otherwise, that's my only comment this evening.
Great. So we will, on behalf of the board, to the Demento family, our deepest condolences. And I know I brought it up earlier, but also to the DeBoli family for their loss and Paul's contribution to our community. Appreciate that very much. And I will echo praise for the rec department. I mean, talk about becoming a destination spot. We were one of a few communities of our size who were able to get the licensing and pull off FIFA events on Town Hall lawn. And, you know, I know for my family and my kids' friends and family, it was incredible to see the kids playing soccer on the side and watching the game and being interactive and not just sitting on the couch. And, you know, the opposite of loneliness is community. And so it's so important, and I'm very proud of the rec department for doing that. So thank you, Charlotte, and the rec department. And DPW and police and everybody else who supported rec in this endeavor. So, how about a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Motion,
So moved.
second.
And I will take a roll call. Wayne?
Aye.
Ted?
Aye.
Danielle?
Aye.
Mary Ellen?
Aye.
And I'm an aye. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.